the scenery blurred with streaks of light tearing through space. In this godforsaken world, I've lived a truly pathetic life. Appearing with a look of panic and despair, how could an underdog ever have their own wealth and status? The abyss was like a monster's mouth swallowing everything around it. And that's the reason why I'm slowly dying, just because I'm too weak. The abyss was like a monster's mouth swallowing everything around it. And that's the reason why I'm slowly dying, just because I'm too weak. That ray of light exploded violently upon hitting the planet. The beam of light began to consume all life. White light ripped through the night, and the tiny blue planet that used to be the cradle of all things felt its life get swallowed up in an instant, soon turning into a massive desert. The city sank into utter ruin. The few survivors could do nothing else but build their own fortresses. His face was a mix of complex emotions. If it's destruction, why not just wipe out everything completely? Why even let these bugs keep surviving? Zeon was instantly pushed back by an impact force. The thug's smirk widened provocatively. Oh my hand just slipped a little bit. He kept his casual demeanor. Sorry about that. My bad, seriously. Give me your name, so I know how to properly apologize. His face was a mix of complex emotions, Zeon. The thug burst out laughing with excitement. Just a single name? Don't tell me you only have one dad, kid. His eyes darkened as he spoke mockingly. Look at this kid's face. He's totally throwing a tantrum. The guys who got on this bus to the mines usually shared one thing in common. The thug excitedly walked over and slapped his shoulder. Relax, kid. Since we're in the same boat, we should get along, right? Zeon fell into a brief moment of thought. Not a single soul here was actually a miner. So, what did you get busted for, kid? His face was a mix of complex emotions. If they weren't criminals, they were wanted men. Definitely one of the two. A mocking voice rang out. Assault, fraud, or theft. If you want to listen to me, throw a counterpunch as fast as lightning. The thug crashed backward in pain. He clenched his fists frantically. Dead wrong, dumbass. You really want to know? His eyes carried intense, murderous intent. I'm in for murder. He fell into a brief moment of thought. To be precise, I didn't kill anyone, because in this neo-soul, only the strong are considered human. His face was a mix of complex emotions. It's no big deal. What's wrong with adding more trash to a landfill? It was just a rat that insisted on stealing my stuff, so it got taken care of. Damn it, I didn't know it was someone else's pet rat. Li Jiryong's younger brother spoke up provocatively. Do you even know my brother is Li Jiryong? You're dead meat, you idiot. His face twisted in terror. It was Li Jiryong. A wave of murderous intent immediately filled the area. If the strong are considered human, then the awakened are gods standing above everyone else. A cold shiver ran down my spine in panic. A sewer rat like me had foolishly offended a god. Rumors that Li Jiryong was frantically hunting me down spread everywhere. So, I immediately crawled onto this bus heading toward the mines. He suddenly paused for a moment, calculated. The thug remained unfazed by the powerful punch. You done talking? Zeon still hadn't fully recovered his senses. What the hell? Why does my head hurt so much? Don't tell me. The exact moment he let his guard down, he was slammed backward. His face contorted in pain. He slowly cracked his joints. Why didn't you say so earlier? I'm here for the exact same reason. I was actually going to treat you like a little brother and show you some love. But you dared to push it, completely crossing the line of my patience. He seemed to lose his cool out of sheer rage. Damn it, bullshit, are you mocking me? I had to run for my life to escape and awakened. Do you people get it? Do you know what I had to go through just to crawl all the way here? Fuck, why does it have to be here? Why? The lackeys joined in provocatively. Looks like Big Bro needs to teach you a little lesson. The thug's murderous intent exploded. Everyone here agrees, right? Zeon questioned in frustration. He was an awakened. Did I seriously run into an awakened, even in this godforsaken place? He decisively and forcefully charged into the encirclement. The vehicle shook violently from the impact. His voice dropped threateningly. Damn it, what is this? Hey, driver, do you even know how to drive? His back briefly looked heavy with helplessness. He clutched his wound and demanded angrily. What the hell is that guy muttering? His face suddenly changed out of sheer terror. He paused briefly and spoke hesitantly. That's not it. I told you that's not it. We're not going to the mines at all. His bloodshot eyes looked wild. What? What the hell are you babbling about? Sweat poured profusely down his face. We are being swallowed up by the abyss like a monster's mouth devouring everything around us. We're getting swallowed up. Everyone instantly stumbled, losing their balance. Thinking back, everything just kept repeating itself. Xian was also struggling as his body was about to be submerged. He had sunk into bottomless pits out of helplessness. Whether it was in Neo's soul or when clashing with an awakened, even getting swallowed by a sandworm was nothing special. At this moment, Xian was still trying to fight for his life because in this garbage world, being plundered by the strong was completely normal. His eyes were bloodshot, and his vision gradually grew blurry. So, me losing my life here is simply because I'm too weak. Darkness seemed to wrap around everything, an ending so ordinary and predictable that it was sickening. Of course, I had always dreamed of a scenario where I was a bit stronger, so I wouldn't have to die a miserable death like this. But now, those words are just empty, meaningless illusions. A resilient hand reached up from the sea of sand. The ground was still slowly shaking. His fingers were broken, yet they still carried resilience. The sandpit kept swirling like a raging storm. His eyes snapped open in sheer shock. Xian had powerfully broken free from the sinking sand. He gripped his shirt tightly, tears rolling down. Xian's entire body was suffering from a tearing pain. Shattered statues appeared all around. His eyes were bloodshot with horror. The tall tower was also gradually tilting over. The entire city was engulfed in a sandstorm. Xian suddenly froze, rooted to the spot. Solid structures were gradually rotting away. His face was a mix of complex emotions. The point of impact flashed like a crack of destiny. His eyes seemed to hold the entire galaxy, and his whole body was enveloped in a powerful inner energy. The sand exploded. A beam of light pierced through, blasting a large hole. Sticky fluid dripped down slowly. I must survive at all costs. His face showed a mix of complex emotions in this cursed world made entirely of sand and dust. He stood up straight with a resilient look. I swear, with a flash in his eyes, he turned toward the monster with a wild expression. I will survive no matter what. His face was a mix of complex emotions. I can feel this pain loud and clear. He seemed to feel a change in his body. Every single cell inside him was screaming. This was his awakening. Xian stood tall and proud before the ferocious monster. It furiously bared its sharp teeth toward him. Xian remained calm, his eyes unflinching. That's right, bring it on. Yongbium suddenly appeared, pushing him back. For a test subject, you're just getting in the way. Xian's eyes widened in horror. He was blown backward by a powerful force, slamming hard onto the ground. He forced himself up, speaking in frustration. What the hell? Who is that guy? Since when did he even get close? A cold shiver ran down his spine in terror. Too close. The stench of blood instantly filled the air. Seriously, what is he made of that he won't go down no matter how much he's hit? Yongbium stood tall, clearly declaring, afraid of heights? Let me send you back down then. Yongbium raised his leg toward the sword and brought it down hard. First floor it is. The giant monster quickly collapsed onto the ground. Xian's face instantly paled upon witnessing it firsthand. What the hell is this? Xian fell into a brief moment of thought. Did he really take down a sandworm in the blink of an eye? Yongbium sighed softly, remarking, so this is what awakening is. His face was a mix of complex emotions. I've never seen an awaken like that before. Giselle excitedly introduced, Kong Yongbium, that's our captain. Xian paused briefly in confusion. What? Giselle smiled with excitement. See? That's exactly why he's the captain. Is this the fastest he's ever taken down an opponent? Xian immediately grew alert. When did he even make his move? He was horrified as his arm felt like it had dropped into an icebox. He's way stronger than he looks. Wait a second. His arm is freezing cold. Yongbium's voice dropped with authority. Sandworms aren't that hard to deal with anyway. Giselle enthusiastically replied, right on, boss. Yongbium's eyes showed a mix of complex emotions. Yongbium sighed softly as he witnessed the ongoing argument. Seriously, damn it. Giselle smiled excitedly with a flicker of interest in her eyes. She decisively dragged Xian away and pinned him down to restrain him. Giselle watched intently with excitement. All right, let's see what this guy's rank and ability are. Time for a check. Excited yet? She suddenly paused, her eyes filled with doubt. Due Sio's voice dropped heavily. Captain, this guy isn't awakened. What? What do you mean? That makes no sense. She maintained her casual demeanor. Xion's frustrated shout rang out. Are you crazy? Hurry up, Giselle clearly declared. He doesn't have a rank badge at all. Xion's eyes fell slightly in anger. Not even a badge. Really? I clearly awakened, right? Why don't I have it? The driver immediately yelled out an urgent warning. Don't just stand there, move it. I'm telling you, the sun is setting. Hurry up. Giselle's eyes flickered for a moment before she said heavily. Captain, what should we do with him now? If we just leave him, he's a dead man. Xion frowned in frustration. You almost broke my arm, and now you're... Yongbyum's face was a mix of complex emotions. He also watched closely without flinching. Yongbyum casually waved his hand and declared, throw him on the truck. He's heading toward the mines anyway. Giselle immediately grew excited. Roger that. The vehicle accelerated, moving rapidly across the desert. Giselle's voice turned fierce as she warned. Why do you always charge ahead alone like that? I told you. Don't make things any more complicated. Stop leaving the group on your own, and don't play deaf with me. Xion lay quietly amid the fierce argument. How much further to the mines? Don't try to change the subject. What if the sun sets? Nice truck, by the way. He suddenly paused as the sand shifted, just like always. Xion kept his casual demeanor. He decisively sat up and confirmed his movements as he pleased. I've definitely awakened something. His eyes showed a hint of doubt along with an uneasy look. But why couldn't they see my rank badge? Come to think of it, the color is a bit strange too. Orange? No. He stared intently at the badge on his arm. It was the exact same color as the sand. His face was a mix of complex emotions. The glow of the badge reflected an awakened's innate talent. Due Sio laughed heartily with an excited look. The magic type will glow blue. Yongbyum's expression changed, filled with alertness. The combat type will glow red. His hand slowly touched the surface of the sand. Though there were a few rare cases with different innate talents, his eyes were focused on controlling his actions, but I've never even heard of a power that controls sand. His face looked slightly relieved out of satisfaction. The system displayed the lowest rank, rank F, but I can feel that this power has infinite potential, just like the desert itself. The corner of Xion's mouth smirked with excitement. He remained focused on his control ability. I'll wait until I completely master it. Until that day comes, I'll hide it and endure. His expression shifted into a wild look. This entire desert, this whole world will be my stage. The scene transitions as twilight falls. He observed attentively and meticulously. So this is the quarry? It even has a checkpoint. Looks pretty ordinary. The guide said in a low, threatening voice. Hey kid, follow me. Xion spoke up helplessly. You still haven't untied me yet. He gritted his teeth. Say another word, and I'll shut your mouth for you. He immediately lowered his voice, pleading. All right, I get it. His eyes were highly alert. Something's not right. She maintained her casual demeanor. Because he's the only survivor? Don't overthink it. It's probably just luck. Yongbyum's face was a mix of complex emotions. No, it wasn't just luck. He frowned and spoke hesitantly. What the hell? A mysterious hole suddenly appeared. Yongbyum walked slowly with a look of doubt. I really should have asked for his name. I have a feeling I'll run into him again someday. On the streets, people bustled in and out, laughing and talking as they walked, and the shops here were packed with customers too. Xion glanced around with a completely casual expression. Seeing that furious attitude, Xion wondered briefly. Are you just going to leave like that? The guide yelled, pointing straight at his face. You want a bullet in your head before I go? Xion still stood there with a blank look. No, I mean, what if I cause trouble here or something? He angrily turned his back and walked away. Do whatever the hell you want. What could a piece of trash like you even accomplish anyway? Xion was now looking all around, observing his surroundings. Just an idiot. I'm starving, so I'll look around. Is there anywhere to eat around here? Then he walked up to an old man nearby. Excuse me, let me ask you something. Right after he finished speaking, his eyes suddenly widened in utter shock. On the wall was a flyer that read, "Let our labor light the way." Neo Soul. Seeing him staring, the other person suddenly spoke up. "What do you think? A wonderful motto to live by, isn't it?" The old man's rough hands clenched tightly. "It's so true, it's ridiculous." "Exactly right. Isn't the energy source of Neo Soul mana crystals?" Zeon sat down, resting his chin in his hand thoughtfully. "What do you mean? If it's not mana, what other energy source is there?" The old man pointed his hand straight at him. "It's you." Klex smirked mockingly, implying, "It's rats like you. Just follow orders, and whenever we're short on people, we just restock. Isn't that the most perfect energy source?" Zeon casually kept eating his grilled meat skewer, his mouth constantly chewing. "We just met, but you sure talk a lot. Most folks your age are probably already pushing up daisies." The old man chuckled and replied casually, "At my age, everything interests me." Then Klex rested his chin in his hand, staring thoughtfully at Zeon. "So what's a sandworm's belly like? Does it feel like being back in your mother's womb?" He paused, his eyes wide with surprise. "Rumors spread that fast around here?" Klex threw his head back and roared with laughter. "Looking at you, clueless kid, you're going to turn into sandworm crap in no time. This place isn't a safe haven for you to hide out." Zeon kept chewing his meat, looking up in confusion. "A hideout? I came here to make money." He suddenly stopped laughing and pointed behind him. "Bullshit. Let me show you something cool. Look over there." Far in the distance was a storage rack filled with worn-out, rotting crates. Seeing that, Zeon looked at him skeptically. "Are you senile? Calling this pile of junk cool? What even is that?" Klex rested his chin, smiling proudly. "Those are things I've gathered bit by bit." His eyes subconsciously glanced at him knowingly. "The final end of those who seek out this place, and your future as well." The old man reminisced for a moment and quietly narrated, "Everyone who first gets here resists at first, refusing to enter the mines. You know how it is, right? A mana crystal mine is exactly that kind of place. Out of fear of dying if they go inside, they sell everything they can just to get by, even selling themselves cheap. But they're just buying time. None of their problems actually get solved. And what little they have left gradually vanishes completely. In the end, everyone reaches the same conclusion. They tell themselves that letting the mines swallow them up would be easier." He paused and said with a sad look, "They say when people die, they leave a legacy, but when trash dies, it only leaves behind trash." Zeon suddenly raised an eyebrow, looking amused. Seeing this, Klex pressed further. "I'm looking forward to seeing what you'll leave behind." He stood up abruptly and asked decisively, "Whatever. How much is it?" The old man laughed excitedly, naming his price, 10 soul. Zeon suddenly slammed the table, his eyes wide with shock. "Are you insane? Is this meat made of gold?" Klex smiled philosophically and explained, "Everything is precious here. Even the skewer you just threw away is worth 9 soul." Hearing that, a sarcastic smirk formed on Zeon's lips. "What kind of cheap meat are you using to charge that much?" "Sorry, but I don't have that kind of cash on me." The surrounding crowd instinctively stood up, weapons in hand. Zeon just stood there, mocking. "You probably saw I'm new here and decided to rip me off, huh? Lost your mind?" The surrounding crowd instinctively stood up, weapons in hand. Zeon just stood there, mocking. "You probably saw I'm new here and decided to rip me off, huh? Lost your mind?" Zeon just stood there, laughing and teasing. "Sorry, but I'm definitely not paying. Deal with it yourself." Right at that moment, he finally noticed the crowd behind him. Cold sweat broke out on the back of his neck. Zeon gathered his courage and turned his head to look. Seeing that sight, he stood rooted to the spot. Klex burst into a sarcastic laugh at his reaction. "Don't you see it? Why do you think an old man like me can naturally run a business right here at the mines?" Right behind him was pitch-black darkness, but cold, sharp gazes and pointed blades were still clearly visible. Klex smiled slightly, taking the upper hand as he asked, "Well, what's your move now?" Trapped in a frustrating bind, Zeon angrily slammed the table. He protested loudly. "Old man, calm down. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? Charging 10 soul for this meat is pure total bullshit. Hold on, let's negotiate." Yet Klex grinned and replied softly, "Short on cash? Don't worry, I'm not a heartless guy. We can exchange it for something else. Right after he spoke, his eyes caught the stone in Xion's pocket. Ah, right. That mana crystal in your pocket should be enough. His gaze froze slightly as he thought to himself. There are already rumors about that too? Klex smiled and ordered, "Hand it over. I'll buy it for a perfectly fair price." Xion maintained his tough, resolute attitude. "Cut the crap. Do you have any idea what I went through to protect this?" The moment he finished speaking, a massive hand grabbed his head, pinning him down. Senior, is there no other way? Or how about you let me put on a tab? We can. With that, the guy used all his strength to violently slam his head onto the table. The man yelled, looking at Klex for approval. "Boss, how long are we going to listen to him babble? Let's just bury this brat alive." Right after those words left his mouth, his hand suddenly flew into the air, hovering as his mouth kept babbling, a sand blaster. After coming to his senses, the man felt a sword slash lightly graze his heavily muscled arm. A part of that arm fell off, making the surrounding crowd look slightly terrified. That sword wound was made by his very own rage. Xion's eyes were now bright, filled to the brim with fury. However, it was only a dream. The mocking voices of the crowd around him still rang in his ears. Hey. The man tightly gripped his head and shoved it forward. "Look here." The guy even frowned and asked, "Are you okay? You've been spacing out this whole time. Dreaming." Xion bitterly realized it was all just an illusion. Fuck. Xion angrily threw the stone toward Klex. Seeing the old man pick it up, he gritted his teeth. That was the magic stone he had risked his life to protect. Klex held up the stone to inspect it, a calculating look on his face. After pondering for a moment, the old man named his price. At a glance, it's probably worth around 100 soul. Hearing that price, Xion angrily slammed the table. "Are you serious? It should be worth at least 300 soul. Why are you saying only 100? Klex calmly replied, "Everything is scarce here. If I'd known, I might as well have sold it like sandworm crap." Xion slammed the table violently in anger. His hands trembled, veins popping. "These bastards. If I wanted to, I have more than enough power to knock this old man out, but now isn't the time." A moment later, he raised his head and cracked a sinister smile. "Give me a decent amount of change, old man." The people nearby were blowing their noses with an arrogant attitude. Klex, having gotten his way, nodded. All right. Keep it safe. This place is crawling with pickpockets and thieves. In fact, I see one right in front of me." The old man pointed his hand behind him toward the worn-out crates. "Consider it our first transaction, so I'll throw in a bonus. Go ahead and pick something from that pile." Xion looked around the pile of junk. The old man firmly stated, "I'll let you have whatever you grab." Xion started rummaging through the scraps. "Seriously, I thought there'd be something good. Turns out it's all just garbage. There's absolutely nothing decent to choose from." Klex quietly watched his movements. "This kid is pretty interesting. That rather die than take a loss attitude. It's been a long time since I've seen someone with such a strong will to live." Xion paused while groping around in his search. "Nothing better than this?" Klex walked over to take a look and explained, "That? A merchant caravan left it behind. You probably won't find anything better than this." Xion picked it up, inspected it, and made his decision. "I'll take this one." Hearing that, Klex spoke in a highly teasing voice. "You sure have a thing for strange, useless stuff." Xion nodded, intentionally ignoring him. Yeah, whatever." After taking a few steps, he suddenly paused. "By the way, what's your name, old man?" Running along behind him, the old man called back loudly, "Klex." Xion looked back and let out a soft smirk. "Old man Klex, it's best if we never see each other again." Klex smiled slightly and turned to walk away. "Who knows, kid?" Over on this side, the hourglass was still racing against time. Xion looked down at the fine grains of sand with a curious expression. There were about 10 minutes left before it ran completely empty. At the miner's living quarters, Xion plopped down onto the floor, pulled out his phone, and started tapping. "All right, let's do this. Inhale." He sat seriously, taking deep breaths to relax his mind. "Exhale, inhale." After a moment, he gently opened his eyes, using all the power he had just absorbed to move the nearby hourglass. Xion's serious face was suddenly reflected on the hourglass. The moment he saw that, he angrily shoved it into his pants pocket. "So it has absolutely nothing to do with my awakening after all." After calming down, He fell into deep thought. I'm absolutely sure this is my first time seeing it. He thought about that hourglass and brooded, feeling like something was very off. It was almost as if it had been prepared just for me. Familiar, as if it were calling out to me, yet entirely new. What's up with this feeling? Right at that moment, a man named Park Man-ho kicked the door open and stormed in. You're the brat who just got here today, right? He pointed his finger straight at his face and barked loudly. Hey, you son of a bitch, why haven't you crawled your ass over to the Ermines yet? I'm Park Man-ho. Were you planning on making me personally come here and drag you by the neck? He frowned and answered bluntly. I'm not a son of a bitch. I'm Xian. And you didn't tell me where to go in the first place. Right after those words left his mouth, he was gifted a thunderous punch from Man-ho, sending him flying back. Man-ho's hand clenched into a tight fist. He charged forward, yelling loudly, Shut that trash mouth of yours. Man-ho cursed as he punched away. What? You dare talk back to me? Did you think I was some kind of nice guy? Xian tried his best to shield himself with his arms, enduring every single one of the guy's insults. A piece of unawakened garbage like you dares to talk big, you bastard. A piece of trash like you should just shut up and take the beating. A moment later, Man-ho stopped punching and barked an order. All right, that's enough. Hurry up and follow me. A moment later, Man-ho stopped punching and barked an order. All right, that's enough. Hurry up and follow me. He gathered all his courage and spoke up. What a completely garbage personality. Park Man-ho. I will remember this name well. You are someone I will definitely kill. Near the entrance of Mine Area 3, the miners saw him arrive and greeted him politely. Good day, Mr. Park. Man-ho walked right past them and ordered, Hand over the gear to this brat now. Yes, sir. The miner helped Xian suit up. Walking ahead, Man-ho began laying down the rules. The rental fee for the gear and your food will be deducted straight from your pay. You better dig up those magic stones and bring them back. Got it? Answer me now. Hearing that, Xian was a bit taken aback. Is that it? How much is the pay? Xian scratched his head, looking at the guy in complete bewilderment. I need things clear up front. Right after he spoke, Man-ho grabbed a nearby pickaxe and slammed it straight into his helmet. The guy barked insults. You haven't even picked up a pickaxe yet, and you're already asking for pay? The helmet fee is getting deducted too. You better remember that well, you bastard. Xian kept his head low, angrily cursing under his breath. Damn it. Next, Man-ho ordered in a harsh tone. Shove this brat into shaft 972. Seeing this, a miner spoke up to stop him, but shaft 972 still has. Seeing him speak up for the kid, Man-ho barked a loud threat. Or do you want to go in there instead of him? Want to go? Answer me right now. The miner went silent, not daring to talk back. Understood, sir. Let's go. The miner whispered warnings as he guided him along. Don't even dream of crawling out of here until you've dug up some magic stones. I will literally kill you. Xian stubbornly tuned it out. Whatever. That's your problem. Standing behind them, Man-ho suddenly replied in a low growl. I can still hear you, kid. A moment later, the miner led Xian deep into the pitch-black shaft. Out of all days, he had to show his face on the exact day Park Man-ho lost all his money gambling. As they walked, Xian stopped in his tracks, utterly amazed. There's seriously a casino here, too? The miner nodded and added for confirmation. Of course there is. From prostitution and drinking to drugs. It's no different from Neo Soul itself. He looked up toward the ceiling, wondering, with idiots like Park Man-ho around, business here probably isn't doing too great, is it? This made the miner subconsciously burst out laughing. You've got quite a sharp mouth on you. Xian just stood there, idly wondering. Do I really have to dig? My skin is pretty fragile. I bruise super easily. The miner's hands trembled as he gripped the iron railing next to him. I'm pretty sure you won't get hurt. The miner suddenly looked down, deep in thought. No one has ever been hurt in there. Not a single person. Xian calmly looked ahead. We're here. The moment he stepped inside, he couldn't help but be surprised. So this was shaft 972. Xian shouldered his pickaxe and quietly walked inside. I just need to go in and dig up some magic stones, right? I'll be right back. You won't be coming back. The miner then quietly shared. More than a dozen people have already gone missing in there. I personally know 4 of them. No one knows if they're dead or alive. He left Xian all alone in the shaft and quietly headed back up. I'm so sorry, and also, thank you. His eyes widened, staring blankly into the distance like a person who had lost their soul. Zeon was stunned, tilting his head back to shout up, "Wait, so that means they're all dead? Where are you going? Are you really going to leave me here alone?" "Hey!" Seeing that there was no reply, Zeon stood there with a disappointed face. "Are you seriously leaving?" "For real." He grabbed his tools and started digging away. Those absolute bastards. Just because his mood was foul, you guys throw me into this godforsaken hole. While digging, the pickaxe suddenly rebounded, hitting him straight in the face. "All of you can just rot and die." Seeing the pickaxe suddenly slip away, Zeon frantically chased after it. "Get back here right now." Whether by accident or on purpose, he wandered into another dark space. What the hell is this? Zeon stood in the middle of the massive space, quietly observing. I was too pissed earlier to notice. But today, this place is packed with mana. Is it because they're ordinary humans that those people couldn't feel it? He took off his helmet, using his hand to cover his nose and mouth. The deeper I go, the denser the mana gets. If I were an ordinary human, I'd probably have suffered a mana overload by now. Where the hell did all this mana come from anyway? Suddenly, a flash of light burst open right in front of him. The moment he approached, Zeon jumped up in pure joy. "Found it! My pickaxe is right here." Just as Zeon stepped forward excitedly, the ground suddenly caved in. Even though the handle was broken, at least he got it back. Suddenly, a dark hole appeared right beneath him. Zeon still hadn't realized it, remaining completely cheerful. "Looks like my luck is still." Right after his words left his mouth, his eyes went wide as he looked down into the hole. As if an invisible force were dragging him down, Zeon struggled frantically to break free. "Wait, what is this? Don't tell me this is a gate." That kid is pretty much a goner too. In no time, Zeon had completely vanished, leaving behind only his helmet and the broken pickaxe rolling around on the ground. Suddenly, the light from the helmet's flashlight shone onto the pickaxe that had been snapped in half. A distant memory suddenly rushed back. Zeon stood alone in the rain with a toy in his hand. Even his own parents abandoned him. So what can you really expect? I just hope he doesn't drop dead right in front of my doorstep. What kind of life did I actually want in the end? Because of his hunger in the middle of the pouring rain, he went to steal some food and was immediately chased and beaten by them. Do you want to die? You've got some nerve trying to steal our food. I just didn't want to starve. As he grew older, he even stole precious gems, forcing the staff and everyone else to desperately give chase. Catch that brat fast. I used to have dreams of my own too. All around him were piercing insults and curses. Do you have any idea who you just killed? Let's see how you're going to escape this time. Your pathetic life ends right here. You dog. Even if I was completely frozen in fear or running for my life, I don't care what state he's in, just keep him breathing. Even if it meant snapping his legs, they had to catch him for a life where I wouldn't have to fear death every single day. Back then, every single day was filled with harsh insults and mocking words. Drag that bastard over to Lee Jurayong immediately. I'm pretty much like that, just wanting an ordinary life. After a moment of drifting in his thoughts, he was swept away to a strange, completely deserted place. He slowly woke up, quickly bringing his hand to his head. My head hurts like hell. What the hell? Why is it so damn hot here? He curiously reached out to touch the ground beneath him, only to realize in utter shock. Is this sand? Zeon froze, sweat pouring down like a river. He subconsciously raised his eyes to look and realized. Oh, I'm screwed, right? If I fell into a gate, looking around, it's just a sea of fire. Fear surged deep within his heart. Is this really the inside of a dungeon? He could only watch as something dropped right in front of him. With an unwilling expression, he bit his lip and tightly squeezed the piece of stone in his hand, then swung his arm to hurl the stone away while screaming out in pure rage. It's too hot, damn it. Next, with sweat pouring down like a river, he gently blew into his palms. Damn it. So this really isn't a dream. A dungeon that even Neo's soul would have to prepare all its resources to handle. Zeon looked at the marks on his palms and muttered to himself, this is definitely because of a volcano, right? It literally feels like sand being baked in a fire. If I don't get out of here fast, my lungs are going to get roasted alive. Next, he knelt down, reached out to tear the pant leg of his trousers, and used it as a makeshift mask to tie around his face. All right, if there's an entrance to a dungeon, there absolutely has to be an exit. The most promising location has to be the highest mountain peak inside this dungeon. Nearing that mountain peak, he cast his gaze over the erupting volcano right before his eyes, breaking into a sweat as he thought to himself, either way, if I just stand still in one place, I'll die from the heat in this pile of ash anyway. Right now is the absolute best time since there isn't a single monster in sight. I'll cross the shortest path at the absolute fastest speed possible. Once Zeon finished his thought, he immediately bolted. He could only be seen with an expression of absolute determination, confirming to himself, that's right, I'm a guy who doesn't even know the word quit. After that, he nimbly leaped from below up onto the cliff face and let out a sigh of relief. That was incredibly close, but when he saw the spot he was standing on cracking apart, he angrily cursed. Damn it! Drenched in sweat, he reached his hand forward in absolute desperation. Please, just please. The fragments of rock plunged into the molten lava stream below, while he was luckier because he managed to grab hold of the nearby cliff face just in time. Holding himself up with his hands to support his body, he screamed at the top of his lungs. This piece of garbage lava doesn't scare me one bit. With the pulling power of his ancestors, Zeon successfully cleared death's door. Sound of nonstop panting echoed out. Next, he furiously clenched his hand into a tight fist, and then, frowning, he roared out, Part Manhwa, you absolute piece of shit. Once I get out of here, you're dead meat for sure. After screaming for a bit to vent his anger, he finally regained his composure. Getting angrier would only make it feel hotter. Damn it! Zeon tightly clenched his fists with a look of pure determination. A stream of thoughts surfaced in his mind accordingly. I must survive this no matter what the cost. I will give it everything I've got to struggle. I must make it back no matter what. Just 4 more times. It seemed like this time he carried a massive sense of determination within him. He looked at the terrain before him and told himself, just jumping across 4 more times, and I'll be there. Don't stop. Just act. Don't overthink things. My life in a dump like this, I absolutely will never give up. It will never end here. Zeon, with every ounce of his bravery, leaped forward. But what awaited him this time was the massive mouth of a creature emerging from beneath the boiling molten lava stream. Just like a delicious piece of bait that couldn't be missed, Zeon was swallowed whole by that creature. After successfully snapping up its tasty bait, it rapidly dived back down into the lava. Right before his eyes were fiery bubbles boiling furiously from the extreme heat. The image of a massive crocodile moving along the surface of the lava flow appeared. At the same time, a gentle stream of energy emerged from the monster's body and moved along. Drenched in sweat, Zeon was hanging there, pointing his finger straight down. This is pure insanity. Why is it so damn hot? To the point where even the volcanic ash is literally melting away. Next, he told himself in his mind, I've vaguely guessed it by now. It turns out I really can even control volcanic ash too. That exact thing was what saved my life. But he could only feel pain as he crashed hard onto the body of that giant crocodile. Lying on its rough skin, he thought to himself exhaustedly, isn't this way too hot? This dungeon, the surrounding environment, is even more toxic than the monsters themselves. My nose feels like it's been scorched black by the heat and this ash. I can't even breathe anymore. My consciousness is gradually fading away. Zeon lay flat on his stomach on the ground, muttering in a weak voice. Am I dying? Suddenly, he tightly clenched his hand. Next, he forced his body up to stand. Less than a minute after declaring I would survive, and I haven't even had a chance to get a girlfriend yet. Dying like this is something I absolutely cannot accept. His foot stomped hard onto the ground. Zeon extended his hand to activate his skill while narrowing his eyes to signal his intent. Lord Hades, I'm sorry, but how about you just take this crocodile hide instead of me? Only the agonizing, shrill cry of the giant crocodile could be heard echoing out, while his eyes glared wide and he roared out in pure fury. Suddenly, a deep voice rang out. You possess a rather interesting ability. Hearing that, Zeon jumped in startle and cast his eyes around. What? Was that voice Lord Hades? The owner of that voice remarked with amusement. Controlling sand is pretty neat. huh? But immediately yelled out loudly. Like hell it is. The image of a person plunging straight from midair toward the giant crocodile appeared, an old man with a smile on his lips. Right at this moment, he spoke up. Is that old man falling down? Deoden, with an expression of pure excitement, was plunging down like an arrow. He tightly gripped the hilt of the sword in his hand, leaping down powerfully with a look of intense amusement. Seeing this sight, Xion's eyes popped as he thought to himself, it's coming. Deoden slammed straight into the giant crocodile's head like a missile, causing the surrounding rocks and dirt to shatter and fly everywhere. He was also sent flying upward by the sheer pressure of it. A massive sound like an earth-shattering explosion echoed out, and several fragments of broken rock were sent flying into the boiling, molten lava stream. Xion hid behind a boulder, trying his best to keep himself from being blown away. Shrill screams echoed throughout the entire space. On, with a bewildered face, reached up to cover one of his ears. What the hell just happened? My ears can't hear a damn thing anymore. A shockwave? How could there be such a horrific shockwave? Did my eardrums literally burst? Just who the hell is that old man? Suddenly, as if realizing something, he raised his eyes to look up. Wait a second, it's that old man from earlier. But first of all, where the hell did the monster go? Right before his eyes now was the incredibly badass figure of Deoden standing in front of the giant crocodile. Looking at this scene, Xion shuddered as he thought to himself, the gap between them is too massive. He completely leaves me in the dust. This isn't merely just the level of a strong awakening. He is truly an entity on an entirely different dimension. At the same time, the image of a foot stepping forward appeared. Instantly, the ground beneath crumbled away. His voice rang out at the same time. While Xion was still staring with his mouth wide open, Deoden asked in a deep voice, I'm asking what your name is. While Xion was still staring with his mouth wide open, Deoden asked in a deep voice, I'm asking what your name is. Next, Deoden began counting down. 3. Those footsteps continued to draw closer. 1. Xion still sat there, staring blankly at the opponent. The man appeared right in front of his face and announced that time was up. Next, Deoden reached behind his back and gripped the hilt of his weapon. If you don't plan on opening your mouth. Xion was startled, thinking to himself, I can't hear you. With his pupils flashing red, the man dropped his voice low. Only now did Xion realize the situation, so he frantically screamed at the top of his lungs. Wait, hold on, stop. I don't know what's going on, but please spare my life. Hearing that, Deoden realized with surprise. Turns out you're not a mute. Next, he repeated himself. I just asked what your name is. Hearing it, he immediately answered. My name is Xion. Next, he repeated himself. I just asked what your name is. Hearing it, he immediately answered. My name is Xion. Suddenly, he forcefully stabbed his sword into the ground, creating a loud sound that echoed throughout the entire space. Xion was so terrified that he squeezed his eyes shut, while Deoden spoke casually. Deoden, my name is Deoden. He still hadn't recovered from his shock, so he frowned and questioned him. What the hell do you think you're doing? The man casually asked back. Doing what? Xion screamed in anger. You call me stupid every chance you get. Why do you love threatening me like this so much? I'm incredibly grateful that you saved my life, but I didn't do anything wrong. Deoden didn't even bother to listen to the end, immediately cutting him off. Hey, dumbass, from what I can see, you've fallen into a trap. Xion, though displeased, was still curious when he saw the man's actions. He's totally ignoring me. What the hell is that thing? Deoden didn't bother to hide it and explained it to him. That's a phenomenon that happens when the mana inside a dungeon gets overloaded. The dungeon will automatically create another entrance to protect itself and flush out the excess mana through that crack. At the same time, it will also drag living creatures inside along with it. That thing is called a trap. He cheerfully gave a thumbs up. An ordinary person wouldn't even see one in their entire life. Your luck is seriously as black as coal. Getting insulted straight to his face, the kid frowned and cursed under his breath. Damn it, Park Manhwa, you piece of shit. At the same time, Deoden spoke up. Hey, idiot over there. Hearing that, he turned around in anger. I told you stop calling me an idiot. The man didn't care one bit, reaching out to turn Xion's head to the side. Let me show you exactly why you're stupid. Xion blurted out with a blank look. What? while the man smirked and suggested, "Now channel mana into your eyes and focus your gaze." He questioned with a bit of suspicion, "What are you planning to do?" Daoden didn't explain, forcing him to follow along. "Shut your mouth and just do as I say. Increase the purity of your mana. Imagine you're looking with mana instead of your naked eyes and feel that flow of mana." An entirely different scenery appeared inside Xion's pupils. The moment he saw it, sweat began to pour out nonstop. "What the hell is that thing?" While Daoden spoke in a serious tone from behind. "Looks like you can finally see it now. That's a monster with the ability to turn invisible. Clueless prey will get devoured by it without ever understanding why they died. Exactly like you." Xion's face was completely pale right now, thinking to himself, "A thing like that was right next to me, yet I didn't feel any presence or danger whatsoever. If this old man hadn't helped me just now, I really would have died without understanding what was happening." Having his life saved twice, he still cast an unwilling gaze sideways. Xion looked at Daoden and curiously asked himself, just how strong is this guy anyway? Next, he asked cautiously, "Exactly who are you?" Hearing that, the man turned back to curse. "Are you seriously stupid? I already told you I'm Daoden." "What an idiot." Drenched in sweat, Xion glared and screamed out, "Not that. Just who the hell are you to possess such terrifying power? And where on earth is this godforsaken dungeon anyway?" Daoden answered casually, "This is a dungeon, and right now it's my hunting ground." He blurted out in a bit of surprise. "A hunting ground?" Daoden nodded. "That's right, a hunting ground. Still want to know who I am?" Then he tilted his head back provocatively. "Then use those eyes of yours and go see clearly for yourself." Grayan, suddenly, the space all around the two of them shook violently. That volcano over there felt like it was about to erupt at any second. Xion brought his hands up to cover his ears, gritting his teeth as he demanded, "What the hell is this?" Next, he raised his eyes to look up with a blank face. What the hell is that old man doing? When Xion saw the spectacle above his head, he frowned and screamed out loud, "What the hell is going on?" At the same time, Daoden's call rang out. "Hey, idiot." He carried an excited look, curling his lips into a smile. "If you still have an ounce of value left, then find a way to survive on your own." The moment he saw Daoden cause a mass of lava rocks to rain down, he screamed, "You crazy old man." Next, he gritted his teeth, questioning, "These bastards, how the hell do they move so fast?" At the same time, something flew over and grazed a section of his arm. It didn't stop there, continuing to rush past his heel area. Holding his injured arm, Xion frowned and wondered to himself, "Damn it, these slip-foot monsters, they strike way too fast. No matter how much I run, I can't escape them. And why the hell do they keep aiming only at my left side to bite?" Next, he used every ounce of his strength to point his index finger forward and unleash a move. But his opponent wasn't some small-time fry, immediately striking back. Getting hit by those consecutive strikes, he immediately brought his hands up to shield his face. With sweat pouring down like a river, Xion grimaced and thought to himself, "Damn it, whether I use sand or the divine eye, I can't keep up at all. Fuck, what do I do now? At this rate, I'm a goner. That old man saved me twice already. If I die here now, I really would be a total idiot." Suddenly, a voice rang out. "Hey, aren't you going to answer?" He wondered in his mind with a bewildered face. "What?" Daoden pointed straight at his face while frowning and cursing. This idiot. He was even more confused, wondering under his breath, "What is he babbling about?" Daoden lost his patience, demanding, "Are you a mute?" Xion thought to himself that his ears were busted, so he couldn't hear very clearly. And then he resolutely confirmed to himself that he had to find a way to see an enemy that the naked eye couldn't catch up. Holding his head, Xion urged himself on. I've got to think of something." "You idiot." Right at this moment, a stream of thoughts surfaced, making him startle slightly. "Channel mana into your eyes and focus. Raise the purity of your mana. Stop looking with your eyes. Treat it as if you're looking with mana itself." Xion, with his pupils flashing an amber color, muttered, "Feel the mana." Suddenly, the image of a creature with red eyes charging forward appeared right before him. Far from being terrified, Xion decisively ripped it apart. At this point, he raised an eyebrow, reminding himself in his mind, since the magic power radiating from those monsters. Look with mana, not with your eyes. When you see their mana closing in, launch a counterattack at the shortest possible distance. Then he turned his head back, a thought flashing through his mind at the same time. That old man, could he have calculated all the way to this step beforehand? Zeon shouted out his question while maintaining his ability. Who the hell are you anyway, old man? Daoden sliced through the monster, shouting with pure excitement. This is great, so thrilling. It's been a long time since I felt my blood boil like this. Boiling lava splashed in all directions, and a massive roar echoed through the space at the same time. He didn't seem to have any intention of stopping, glaring with a wild grin. More, give me more. And then Daoden unleashed a powerful strike that cut the giant crocodile completely in half. Come at me, all of you. Under Daoden's strike, the giant beast collapsed right in front of him. Daoden turned his back arrogantly and walked away. What a pity. Finally, he swung his sword to end its life. Then Daoden quietly walked away. Such a shame. I just finished warming up. Why are there so few monsters in dungeons these days? I miss the old days. Zeon panted heavily, his eyes wide with shock. That was terrifying. I'm actually starting to feel sorry for the monsters. He could only stand there frozen. The old man completely wiped out all those giant monsters. I'm speechless. I really don't know what to say. Suddenly, he burst into a hearty laugh. But it looks like there aren't any monsters left, right? Little did he know, a massive tremor immediately snuffed out his budding smile. Damn it! A tremendous wave of power erupted into the open air. The earthquake shook the ground violently, making Zeon lose his footing. Nauseous, he collapsed to the ground, throwing up his guts. Zeon wiped his mouth and asked curiously, "What the hell was that noise? What is it this time?" Daoden's face hardened, his expression cold. That's the roar of the final boss. He spoke up in surprise. The boss? The old man explained in a low voice. Every dungeon has a boss. The source of the entire area, the strongest entity in the dungeon. Daoden watched the figure slowly emerging from the darkness. And that's exactly why I'm here. Zeon's eyes widened, unable to hide his astonishment. The final boss? The corner of his mouth curved up into a smirk. You finally showed your face. Before Daoden's eyes, a massive beast flew out from the surge of power. A red drake. Zeon's smile completely vanished, his eyes glued to it. A red drake? Isn't that a dragon? On the contrary, the old man couldn't hide his excitement. Unfortunately, no. But it's at least a B rank. His voice became increasingly shaky. At least B rank? So that means the ferocious, massive figure appearing before us is a domain. Hearing that, Daoden patted his head in approval. An idiot like you actually knows about domains? Zeon lowered his voice, his face turning serious. I've only just heard about it. Monsters from B rank and above have their own unique traits, just like humans. His gaze didn't leave the red drake, just like how awakened ones are divided into ranks. If it possesses a red domain, it's a combat type. Zeon was mid-sentence when it started to move. And one with a blue domain like that thing over there is a magic type. The red drake spread its massive wings and unleashed a blast of icy power toward. He panicked in utter terror. A magic type? Holy shit, that's way too overpowered. To his surprise, Daoden moved quickly, swinging Grain twice to form a cross that tore right through it. Zeon watched open-mouthed as the shattered pieces of ice rained down like a storm. Time seemed to stand still before his eyes. All his experience and knowledge, and the fierce battle taking place right before this old man, suddenly felt completely meaningless. Daoden followed up with another strike right down the red drake's spine. It instantly raised its sharp claws to attack, but he blocked it. Even more surprising was that Daoden's technique was caught right in its claws. The red drake opened its massive maw, preparing to unleash its ultimate move. In this situation, the old man just flashed a delighted smile. Daoden used only one hand to channel mana and touch its body. This was truly the smile of an absolute champion. That hurts, doesn't it, Drake? That hurts, doesn't it, Drake? Then he swung his blade, knocking the red drake down. Because today is the anniversary of your death. Sensing that things were going south, Zeon immediately turned and bolted. Damn it, today is the anniversary of my death. Behind him, wild bursts of unidentified mana flew everywhere. I don't know what's wrong with these crazy guys, but can you just calm down and fight? Left with no choice, Zeon channeled mana into both hands to form a protective barrier. He braced himself, struggling to hold his ground. Under that immense power, his feet were sinking deeper and deeper into the dirt. Seriously, go fight somewhere far away. Just the shockwaves alone are enough to kill someone. He struggled desperately to break free from this catch-22 situation. On the other hand, the man soaring in midair looked incredibly thrilled. This is so much fun, pure bliss. He sat proudly on the red drake's head, casually steering it. Feels like we're at an amusement park, doesn't it, Red Drake? Next, Daoden swung his sword and stabbed it in the head, causing the red drake to crash down. The residual mana from the impact shot toward Zeon like light. Everything happened so fast that he stood dazed for a few seconds. Only when it was about to hit him did he snap out of it. Holy shit, but it seemed to be too late. He was blasted far away. Zeon rolled across the ground like a rag doll. Next, he was launched off the ground and sent flying through the air. Zeon looked back with eyes full of despair and regret. His vision blurred for a brief moment. The fierce battle was still raging ahead. It seemed no one cared about a nobody like him. Daoden wildly raised his fist. Is that all you've got, Drake? With just one blow, he slammed its head hard against the ground. You call yourself a dungeon boss, yet you're constantly bowing down like that? You're bringing shame to the title of final boss. Enraged, the red drake began gathering mana inside its mouth. Daoden only grew more and more excited. Turns out bosses know how to pull off moves like this too. A massive blast of energy erupted from the red drake's mouth. It tore through the wind, heading straight for him. As the attack ended, smoke billowed from the red drake's mouth, its face looking as if a heavy burden had been lifted. But Daoden's voice echoed from out of nowhere, leaving it startled. Looking for me? To catch you, I had to wander across the desert for an entire year. To catch you, I had to wander across the desert for an entire year. Out of nowhere, the sword flew violently and impaled the red drake. It roared in agony. He stood towering, gripping the sword tightly in his hand. The whole point was to use your heart to forge this sword, Grayan. His eyes flashed sharply, his voice turning cold. Now die. Grayan gradually sank deeper into the red drake's heart. A crimson surge of mana was slowly released, enveloping Grayan. The mana was entirely absorbed by Grayan, making the sword glow bright. Daoden's eyes didn't leave the blade during its upgrade process. Once it had absorbed all the mana, Grayan seemed to wear a new, much more powerful armor. He held it in his hand, admiring it. Daoden let out a delighted laugh. You've grown stronger again, Grayan. Suddenly, Zeon's voice caught his attention from somewhere. Now you're talking to a sword. Are you completely out of your mind? Luckily, he managed to crawl back up. But taking down that drake makes you one terrifyingly strong old man. Daoden replied casually, as if it were nothing. You idiot. You're still alive? By now, Zeon had regained his composure. Yeah, barely made it. He recalled the moment he was thrown off the cliff. His mind went completely blank, unable to process anything. A second later, he slapped his own face to pull himself together. Zeon thrust his fist forward, using mana to create a support structure made of sand. He crashed into it, escaping death by a hair, and didn't forget to praise himself. Damn, I survived again. I'm actually pretty good. Back in the present, he sat up and spoke. Getting battered by the shockwaves from this crazy old man actually improved my reflexes, which is why I survived. Daoden grinned, baring his teeth. For an idiot, that's not bad. With that, he picked Zeon up like a puppy. The boss is dead, and this dungeon is about to collapse. We need to get out of here fast. His face showed clear frustration as he questioned him. But why are you grabbing me anyway? Daoden's smile didn't bring any reassurance. Instead, it sparked an indescribable sense of dread. And he was right. He forcefully threw him into a vortex. Goodbye, idiot. He could only yell out curses. Hey, you crazy old bastard. You're even worse than Park Manhwa. As soon as those words left his mouth, he appeared in a completely different dimension. Turns out the vortex was a barrier portal. He flew out from it and rolled onto the sand. Zeon got a mouthful of sand and coughed violently. Where the hell is this place? Only then did Daoden calmly step out. What a strange question. We're out of the dungeon. The rift created when the dungeon collapsed was the exit. His voice was weak and trembling. Then why didn't we just walk out? But he ignored him, his voice turning deep. Listen carefully, idiot. His massive, commanding figure stood right in front of Xian. I need your sand-controlling energy. But with you being this weak, you're absolutely useless. So, I'm giving you a choice. He pointed with one hand toward a path. If you go this way, you'll reach Neo's soul. You can go back there and continue your old life. Then he pointed toward himself. Or you can follow me and become a slightly better idiot. Xian looked clueless, his brain still trying to process it. What are you talking about all of a sudden? If I follow you, for how long? Daoden grew quieter and more serious. I don't know, maybe a few months, a few years, or even a few decades. We'll find out when the time comes. He was stunned by the old man's words. So make your choice right now. Daoden kept pressing him. The competitive spirit inside him was torn. Go back home to his familiar, easy life, or embark on a gamble where the mortality rate was 99%. His voice was decisive and firm, making him hesitate. Come on, choose. Xian let out a mocking laugh. A choice? You gotta be kidding me. He pointed his finger forward defiantly. Old man, you've lost your mind. As if he had just heard a hilarious joke. His tone turned sarcastic. You're telling me to leave my home, my warm bed, and everything else just to wander around this scorching desert with you? But all he got in return was Diaden's rock-solid, unwavering resolve. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. He let out a sigh, looking completely nonchalant. Then there's nothing left to discuss. Xian quietly walked past him. I'll follow you. His voice dropped low. I've always hated anyone who crossed me, and I make sure to get even. But right now, I'm still too weak to get my revenge. Then he smiled and turned his head back. And that includes you too, old man. He stood before Diaden's massive frame, talking endlessly. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met in my life. And I have a gut feeling I'll never meet anyone stronger than you. The old man also burst into a hearty laugh and replied, That's exactly why I can say for sure, absolutely for sure, that you're going to die early. Xian clenched his fist, full of burning determination. I can say for sure that if I follow you, I'll become stronger than anyone else. But Daoden just laughed mockingly. That confidence of yours will make you regret it one day. With that, he decisively turned his back and walked away. Hurry up and follow me, dummy. It's a long way ahead. Xian ran after him. I told you to stop calling me a dummy. The harsh sunlight pierced through the thin layers of clouds, beaming down on the unforgiving desert. Covered in dirty sweat, Xian snapped. Can we please slow down a bit? He stretched his arm forward, desperately grasping for a lifeline. Old man, we've been marching for 6 hours straight. Let's take a break, please. The only response was Diaden's cold back and dead silence. He clutched his head with both hands, screaming with every ounce of strength left in him. This is so depressing. Why won't you say a single word? Are you some edgy teenager? Why does your mood swing so damn much? By now, his eyes had lost focus, looking completely dazed, with no energy left to speak. It's too hot. 100 degrees. No, it's got to be like 120 degrees out here. His legs felt heavy as lead as he struggled to drag them through the sand. This damn sand is making it impossible to walk. At this rate, if heat stroke doesn't get me, dehydration will. Xian started to collapse. I don't know what the hell to do anymore. Daoden spoke up, breaking the silence. There really is no one more foolish than you on this earth. You have power in your hands, yet you don't even know how to use 1% of it. He looked up inquiringly. What do you mean by that? The old man explained as he kept walking. Having the ability to manipulate sand but struggling to walk on sand is truly pathetic. Xian yelled out once more. Easy for you to say. I just awakened a few days ago. He looked down on him. Xian kept rambling on like that, making Daoden grit his teeth in sheer annoyance. I'm only an F rank. I'm not a high-level awakened like you. He turned around and spat his words right into his face. Stop talking nonsense. What does F rank or S rank even matter? Xian was left stunned by Diaden's scolding. Do you think people are just born as S ranks? If such people actually exist, they're just lucky to be blessed by the heavens. Xian was left stunned by Diaden's scolding. Do you think people are just born as S ranks? If such people actually exist, They're just lucky to be blessed by the heavens. Zeon was left stunned by Diodon's scolding. Do you think people are just born as S ranks? If such people actually exist, they're just lucky to be blessed by the heavens. Diodon waved his hand and said softly, so stop whining and use your brain to figure out how to use your ability. What's the point of having functional limbs when your head is completely empty? Then he placed his hand on Zeon's shoulder. That is your power. Diodon leaned in close, advising him strictly. Naturally, you should be the one who understands it best. How to clear that clouded mind of yours to grow up, or how to use it. You have to figure that out on your own. Zeon was moved to tears. The old man suddenly squeezed his shoulder tightly. Got it, dummy? If you can't figure out on your own, you might as well consider yourself dead. Zeon screamed in pain, begging loudly. I get it. Let go of your grip. After that, he began to practice seriously. The sand beneath his feet started to swirl, and guided by his power, it formed a sphere that enclosed him. The sand beneath his feet started to swirl, and guided by his power, it formed a sphere that enclosed him. Zeon took heavy steps, continuing to push forward. The sand keeps sinking up to my ankles. If I can solve this, it'll save so much energy. He decided to try a different approach. What if I compress the sand to make it really solid? It worked, and he started trotting lightly across the sand. Awesome. My feet aren't sinking anymore. Walking is so much easier. But after just 3 steps, he had to pause and think, but this drains way too much mana. In the long run, this won't work at all. Zeon lifted his feet again, switching to another plan. Maybe I should try focusing mana into both of my feet. This definitely made walking a lot easier. He kept rambling right next to Diodon. If I tweak this part a bit, but this doesn't really feel like using my ability. He only smirked slightly, waiting it out. Diodon was completely struck by his sheer enthusiasm, watching him constantly experiment without ever giving up. Ah, the privilege of youth. He kept reflecting on it. His rank was still F, but in terms of raw power and mana control, he had to be among the absolute top tier. While Diodon was deep in thought, Zeon suddenly cried out in joy. I did it. He ran ahead to show off. Old man, look at this. Take a close look. I'm only using mana to control the sand that touches my feet. Now walking feels completely effortless. Not only that, he even pointed his index finger forward mockingly. An old guy like you probably can't do this, right? Now I can move around perfectly fine. What do you think about that? The old man was caught off guard, and he treated Zeon to a punch full of tough love. There was a hint of annoyance in his voice. You are such a pain in the ass. Stop wasting your energy on useless tricks, or you're going to die. Seeing that he was about to pass out, Diodon urged him, We don't have time. Hurry up. You idiot, breathe, keep breathing. Seeing that he was about to pass out, Diodon urged him, We don't have time. Hurry up. You idiot, breathe, keep breathing. Nearby, Diodon was happily devouring a delicious piece of meat. You're awake. You idiot. I'm busy as hell, and yet I have to waste my time on you. He still managed to squeeze out a few responses. It's not like we're on vacation. You're completely covered in cuts and bruises. Zeon looked at the ugly-looking thing lying in front of him. Jerky. Diodon leaned back to rest. Eat while you listen to me. This is a story from back when I was young. He chewed while lowering his voice. Back then, even if you were weak or incompetent, it wasn't like you couldn't survive. Protecting the weak was actually considered an honorable thing. Can you believe that? Zeon lay there quietly, listening to Diodon's story. But as you can see, the world is different now. To you, this kind of world is normal, but I just can't seem to ever get used to it. He didn't forget to add a few more harsh words. If you want to die, just lie there and get comfortable. Otherwise, drag yourself up on your own 2 feet. Dummy. Zeon instantly bolted upright. Fine, I get it. I'm getting up. Zeon instantly bolted upright. Fine, I get it. I'm getting up. Zeon watched his back, his mind wandering. I knew he'd live a long time, but I didn't expect it to be this long. I wonder how many years and memories he has accumulated over time. He couldn't help but have many questions in his heart, but he didn't dare to say them out loud. And he's still sitting there chewing on that piece of jerky. Does he use his saliva to soften the meat instead of chewing it? Zeon took a piece of jerky and put it in his mouth, not forgetting to give Diodon a side eye. In this water-scarce desert, that's probably the only way. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Seriously, he chewed while reflecting on it. Instead of giving me a fish, it seems like he's teaching me how to fish. Done. He leaned back on his hands, stretching comfortably. Though I've never even seen a fish before. Done. He leaned back on his hands, stretching comfortably. Though I've never even seen a fish before. In the quiet space, his voice rang out. Old man, give me another piece. Seemingly rejected by Daoden again, he shut his mouth. Suddenly, Zeon let out a loud sneeze. He wrapped his arms around his shivering body, completely forgetting that nights in the desert were bone-chillingly cold. Before going to sleep, Zeon didn't forget to talk trash about him and that senile old man, keeping me awake all night because he wouldn't stop talking to his sword. Daoden just sat there, rambling on about the past. My old friend, yes, that place is perfect. Zeon cursed him under his breath. This guy's out of his mind. Before he could even finish his thought, Daoden provided the answer right in front of him. My throat is parched. Is there really no water around here? Zeon gritted his teeth, swallowing his anger. Once again, he was secretly drinking all by himself without saying a single word to me. He immediately licked the fabric wrapped around his arm. He's actually wringing out the moisture trapped in his clothes. No wonder everything leaked out while he was asleep. Zeon switched from one arm to the other. Just you wait, you crazy old man. Once I get stronger, I'll pay you back. Suddenly, Daoden called out, Hey, idiot. He snapped back angrily. I told you I'm a dummy, not an idiot. The old man had to give in to his stubbornness. Fine, dummy. Do you feel anything yet? He paused to sense his surroundings. Feel what? Zeon looked up at the sky. This level of vibration is... His face began to tighten up. There's definitely more than one. A second later, a pack of hyenas with blood-red eyes appeared and surrounded the two of them. Daoden seemed quite familiar with these pests. Great horned hyenas. These guys usually hunt at night, but we ran into them at dawn. While giving advice, he didn't forget to throw in a jab. Dummy, do you think you can handle this yourself? Or do you need my help again? As soon as he finished speaking, the pack of great horned hyenas charged in to attack. As soon as he finished speaking, the pack of great horned hyenas charged in to attack. He shouted out with absolute certainty, Because I'm going to survive on my own. Grains of sand began to gather at his fingertips. He continuously launched attacks at the great horned hyenas, his eyes flashing with a sharp light as he glanced behind his back. He thrust his hands forward violently, creating arrows of sand aimed directly at them. And the harsh reality immediately crushed his initial confidence. Damn it. Why are there so many of them? He was completely exhausted, gasping for breath. Before they even managed to bite me to death, I'm going to run out of mana and die first. I need a plan, a real plan. His brain started working at maximum capacity. Right now, raw power isn't what matters most. I need to attack efficiently and save mana. He began to calm his mind and think, how can I fight while using the absolute minimum amount of mana? Think, come on. Out of nowhere, a great horned hyena lunged forward and bit his arm. Zeon thrashed around wildly, cursing at it. Hey, you damn monster! I was right in the middle of thinking. You coward, how dare you bite me? Zeon looked at the wound on his arm, gritting his teeth in pure rage. This crazy beast left a hole in my arm. It literally looks like a crater. Blatting out that one sentence made him stop dead in his tracks. A hole. Meanwhile, the great horned hyenas were still swarming in packs to attack. They were closing in faster and faster from behind, while Zeon was still completely absorbed in muttering to himself. That's it, a hole. I just need to make a hole. Next, he flashed a savage smile, just like this. Zeon wildly raised his head to look at the pack of great horned hyenas. Exactly. Why waste energy trying to blow their whole heads off? Whether they explode or just get a hole put through them, they end up dead either way. He faced the adversity without a single shred of fear in his heart. In battle, mana was his life. If he panicked and wasted it, he was just accelerating his own suicide. Zeon continued to shape the sand into sharp spikes to attack with a single strike, using the absolute minimum mana for the maximum lethal efficiency. Combat is all about calculating the costs. After that, he turned his head to observe Daoden. Look at that old man, just casually killing them one by one. Even though a great horned hyena was clamping down on his arm, Daoden still laughed out loud. What are you doing? This is barely a scratch. With just a twist of his arm, its entire jaw was practically ripped apart, You miserable mutt. Facing the entire pack of great horned hyenas completely alone, Deoden didn't flinch at all. Dogs that bite people can't be allowed to live, right? All of you could drop dead right here. On the contrary, he bared his teeth with a thrill-seeking grin. Son didn't have time to dodge and could only throw both hands out to try and brace himself. Wait, that old man is starting up again. Deoden closed in like a god of death, swinging his sword. It was an absolute massacre. A slash of pitch-black mana shot out with terrifying power. Its destructive force was so massive that it blew away the entire pack of great horned hyenas, leaving only Zeon struggling desperately to hold his ground. It was finally over. His face was dazed, completely drained of color. That old man is out of his mind. There are still people close by, you know. The attack left behind a long gouge and a massive crater. Zeon stood frozen in place. Are you even human? How can you pull that off without even using a skill? His face relaxed, though he grew a bit more cautious. Damn, I better behave myself from now on. One slip up, and I'm a goner. At that moment, Deoden was standing right on the belly of a great horned hyena. You're bursting my eardrums. You're the alpha, aren't you? Running a pack, but you're panicking over nothing. It thrashed around, aiming its sharp horn right at him. Deoden still took his time to calmly evaluate his prey. So this is defensive power. Damn it. Turns out you're a B rank or higher. Suddenly, a brilliant blast of energy shot out from the sharp horn to attack him. Zeon panicked and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Old man, look out!" But on the other side, Deoden had casually caught the horn with his bare hand. Once again, he was left stunned, his hand frozen mid-air. Look out for what? He let go of the great horned hyena's horn, feeling a slight numbness. Well, that did help me stretch out my shoulder muscles. Then Deoden delightfully started channeling his mana. Now that we're introduced, go ahead and die. Just a single punch from him sent it straight to the afterlife instantly. Zeon dodged the raining chunks of flesh with a wry laugh. Seriously, who the hell am I to be worrying about someone else? It's best to just ignore that monster to save myself a headache. He draped the acquired loot over his body. Old man, it's all cleared out. Should we get moving? Meanwhile, Deoden was still tinkering with the horn. You're still alive, dummy? Zeon asked with a bit of curiosity. Are you planning to bring that along? He replied with a smile. A great horned hyena's horn is pretty useful. It has a lightning attribute, so if you know how to craft it, it'll make a top-tier weapon. Then Deoden tossed the dagger into the pelt on his body. Zeon held it in his hand, unable to hide his curiosity. It was a dagger. Meanwhile, he was still rummaging through his inventory space. From now on, fend for yourself. Don't count on my help anymore. Deoden held up a piece of meat and gave detailed instructions. Their muscles are highly toxic. Eat them and you die. But the meat around the flank is poison-free. Seeing his hesitant look, he immediately urged him. What are you staring at? Dawn is breaking. Let's move, dummy. The rising sun signaled that the long night had come to an end. Zeon continued his journey. Yes, sir. The rising sun signaled that the long night had come to an end. Zeon continued his journey. Yes, sir. His chest was piled high with chunks of meat from the great horned hyenas. He was a bit thirsty, but at least he had meat to eat. His life seemed to have become much easier, and with his desert walking skill, moving around was a breeze. Zeon didn't miss the chance to stand before Deoden and tease him. Are you jealous? Now that we're out, don't push yourself too hard. He had even learned how to dodge his strikes. I managed to dodge it this time. Who would have thought his joy wouldn't even last 3 seconds before he got smacked again? Deoden's voice carried a hint of annoyance. What an absolute lunatic. I'm walking until my legs are about to fall off, while he's completely fresh. All because of that damn skill. Zeon still had the energy to stick his tongue out and play the fool. Come on, I was just kidding. I'm parched, and he goes and shoves my face into the sand. He followed up reluctantly. Hey, I'm talking to you. Where are you looking? Wait a minute. Is this feeling moisture? Zeon quietly observed Deoden. Am I imagining things? No, he's looking in that direction too. Which means he followed his gaze. Is it really there? Right past this spot, an oasis. An unusually large sand dune stood out in the middle of the desolate desert. The two of them walked over it together. Zeon cheered with excitement. It's real. A place I've only ever heard of in rumors. He stretched his arms comfortably, feeling a weight lifted off his shoulders. The oasis is finally here. Right after that, he scrambled down the slope to get to the bottom. Water. How many days has it been since I last had a drop of water? Right after that, he scrambled down the slope to get to the bottom. Water. How many days has it been since I last had a drop of water? Zeon was incredibly thrilled, running over with all his might. I finally see it. He practically plunged his face straight into the water without a second thought. The cool sensation instantly washed away the heat on his skin, making him incredibly comfortable. The water is soaking into my skin. This is pure heaven. In his mind, he was silently lamenting his hardships. In the middle of this damn desert, over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, after so many days, this refreshing chill was finally sinking into his body. His eyes suddenly froze for a moment. Am I too happy? From deep within the pool, something seemed to flash brightly into his eyes. What is that shiny thing? It's blinding, yet it feels so warm. Not long after, Zeon suddenly felt his eyelids grow heavy as lead. Why the hell am I so sleepy all of a sudden? Right at that moment, Diodon's roar echoed in his ears. Wake up right now, you idiot. He came charging over like a madman. The light beneath the pool grew brighter and brighter, because from beneath the deep water, a giant anglerfish emerged with its massive mouth wide open. Diodon rushed over in a frenzy and accurately grabbed his shirt, using his strength to pull his chest back just in time, which was exactly when a massive fish leaped out of the water. Its missed snap left Zeon unharmed, but absolutely terrified. Diodon then let go of him, using his momentum to leap high into the air. He adjusted his grip, tightening his hold on Grayan, and then delivered a devastating, fatal downward slash. The water in the pool splashed violently from his sheer power, soaking Zeon completely. Unbelievable. So this is the kind of thing I've only heard about in stories. Zeon stared blankly up at the creature, slowly revealing itself behind the curtain of water. Diodon roughly tossed aside the fish fin he had just ripped off. That's a sandjaw monster. It uses the light on its forehead to lure prey and then swallows them whole. At this point, he suddenly stopped speaking, his expression gradually turning sour. Sure enough, a split second later, Diodon aggressively gave him a thunderous slap. He instinctively touched his aching cheek while Diodon roared in fury. Did you throw everything I taught you into the trash? You idiot, you adapt just a tiny bit, and suddenly you think you're hot shit. He barked out in frustration. Morons like you are the first to die in this desert. Do you copy that? You bastard. He didn't talk back, only lowering his voice submissively. Yes, sir. Diodon let out a soft sigh, his tone softening slightly. Skin it. Hearing this, he was a bit surprised. Skin it. He explained in a lower voice. That's a C-rank monster. The belly skin is extremely soft and durable. It makes a perfect cloak. So cut it up and make yourself a cloak. Zeon still asked cluelessly. Do you need a cloak? Diodon, who had just calmed down a bit, was immediately triggered into a rage by him. Not for me. Do it for yourself. You absolute idiot. Why is your brain getting stupider by the day? There's got to be a reason for this. Did two people use a petrification spell on your left brain and an erosion spell on your right brain? Zeon felt like his ears were about to fall off, but he could only say regretfully, I'm sorry. He spoke in a low voice. Even though it had changed a lot, this thing looked a lot like the fish that used to live on Earth. Diodon stopped arguing and turned straight away. You've probably never seen a fish before, so look closely, or else I'm leaving you to rot. Zeon thought to himself, is that a fish? His eyes involuntarily widened a bit more. This is the first time I've ever seen one. Fish are truly terrifying creatures. After that, he brought out his knife and slowly tried stabbing it into the fish's belly. Seeing this, Diodon teased him lazily. Want me to scratch that fish's back for you? It'll probably be so thrilled it'll die and come back to life, right? Zeon gasped in surprise. Cut out. I can do it myself. Saying that, he looked up at it one more time. This is trickier than I thought. If so, then he should try channeling some mana into the knife. Focus. I have to focus. He began to carefully make a firm incision, channeling mana into the blade to increase its cutting power. Zeon widened his eyes, shaving the fin thin to use as a sewing needle. He muttered to himself, and if I take the tendons from the meat to use as thread. His eyes suddenly lit up. But then he slumped down on his knees in disappointment. Well, my life is ruined. Seeing this, Deoden chimed in with a cruel, mocking tone. You turned that fish into a pile of garbage. Zeon swore out of frustration. Damn it, there's still plenty of materials left. Let's try this one more time. Just like that, his one attempt stretched until midnight. The sky was pitch black with nothing in sight, but in the end, he shouted out with pure excitement, done. A perfect success at last. He muttered to himself. After messing up 8 times, it's finally done. I could probably sell this, right? Welcome to the Zeon Fashion Boutique. Deoden slowly stood up. Fearing his hard work was about to be stolen, Zeon growled defensively. No way. I don't want to. I'm not giving it up. This is my stuff. But he just brushed it off coldly. Stop talking nonsense. Eat this. He looked suspiciously at the massive object in Deoden's hand. Huh? What is this? He replied calmly. A sandworm's gallbladder is an extremely rare medicine. I forbid you from leaving even a single bit behind. Eat it all up. Terrified, Zeon swallowed hard. And if I don't swallow it all? Deoden laughed out loud. Then you're gonna die. With that, he decisively threw it over to him and urged, take it quickly. My arm is about to fall off. Zeon felt incredibly frustrated, thinking to himself that he should just let it fall off. But being a coward, he kept that thought to himself. After a few seconds of hesitation, he could only close his eyes and take a big bite. Fine. Damn it, this is medicine. It tastes absolutely horrendous, but it's better than being beaten to death. After chewing for a while, his grimace suddenly faded. What is this? Zeon lowered his head to take another large bite. It felt like eating a cloud. Why do I never feel full no matter how much I eat? He was currently completely focused on eating. Well, thanks to that, I clear the whole thing. Deoden suddenly spoke up. Hey, idiot. He was currently completely focused on eating. Well, thanks to that, I clear the whole thing. Deoden suddenly spoke up. Hey, idiot. Zeon turned around in confusion. What the hell are you saying? As soon as he said that, he suddenly clutched his neck and threw his head back, screaming out loud. Zeon noticed a strange heat erupting inside his own body. What is this? My chest feels so hot. It's not just regular heat either. Zeon noticed a strange heat erupting inside his own body. What is this? My chest feels so hot. It's not just regular heat either. While he roared in agony, Deoden remained completely calm beside him. Deal with it, dummy. He cast his gaze out toward the open water. Everything is just like this oasis. It will soon vanish with the wind and sand as if it never existed. Deoden muttered in a low voice. But right there, the sandworms will be reborn, and they will return. Life just keeps going in cycles like that. By now, Zeon was thrashing around like a fish out of water from the pain. No, damn it. You old bastard. He screamed in agony. Don't just sit there frozen. Somebody save me. He slowly looked over. Seeing the other man groaning like that, Zeon yelled out even more furiously. Old man, I'm gonna kill you. Deoden didn't even bother to argue, merely half closing his eyes. Shut up so I can sleep. Just like that, he writhed in agonizing pain. By the time he vaguely woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. Where is this place? Deoden looked down at him with his face upside down from out of nowhere. You're awake? Idiot. Zeon was utterly startled the moment he woke up. Shit. You scared the crap out of me. You gave me a heart attack. He simply asked, sleep well, dummy. Hearing that, he pouted in dissatisfaction. Sleep? I passed out, you know. Deoden replied calmly. Is that so? Then how does your body feel? Only then did Zeon slowly check his body. My body feels just the same as before. Midway through, he paused for a moment and tried clenching his fist. No, that's not right. Zeon suddenly realized his body felt light as a grain of sand. His muscles were as tough as steel cables, and his mana was surging like a violent storm. He stared wide-eyed in disbelief. What is this? Why'd I suddenly get this strong? What happened? Deoden revealed in a low voice. It's thanks to that sandworm gallbladder. He turned his head to look at him. A sandworm's gallbladder is a highly precious medicine for people crossing the desert. It gives you the strength to endure the scorching sun and dust storms with the merchant caravans. It's worth a whole mana stone. Deoden continued in a satisfied tone. Looks like the medicine worked better than expected. Congratulations, dummy. Hearing this, Zeon was completely stunned. You actually gave me something that valuable? Deoden replied without a second thought. Because you're way too weak. Since I bothered to drag you along, you should at least be somewhat useful. He eagerly ran over. Got it. I'll become extremely useful. All around Zeon. Reliable Zeon. The old man snapped and cut him off. Shut up and eat. We're not going anywhere until you finish eating this entire worm. The sun had risen higher, and the heat began to dominate once again. Daoden lightly touched the massive skeletal frame and muttered, "This monster has more meat than I thought. We've been stuffing our faces for 4 straight days." With that, he turned to look back. Time to hit the road again, right? Idiot. The corners of his mouth curved up slightly, and then he shouted out with immense excitement, "Yes, sir." Before they had traveled very far, a sandstorm suddenly came crashing in. Wearing his homemade cloak, Zeon walked forward at a leisurely pace. He chewed loudly as he walked. A sandstorm? Thanks to my new power, it just feels like a cool breeze. Then he gazed at Daoden's back, but that old man was still walking briskly without needing a single break. He muttered a few words to himself. He hasn't uttered a single word these past few days. Could he be going through male menopause? Zeon's doubts shifted again. We've been walking for 2 weeks straight without a break. Does this old guy even know where he's going? At that moment, a desert ant as big as a house lunged out behind him. But he was too busy complaining. Damn it, that crazy old man isn't lost, is he? It roared loudly in his ear, annoying him. So he blindly threw a punch without even looking. Shut your mouth, you tiny pest. Zeon continued to grumble. How much further do we have to go? As soon as those words left his mouth, he paused slightly and turned his head back. Seeing the desert ant with its head dented in, Zeon casually commented, "Pretty tough, huh?" He thought to himself with a bit of boredom. I intended to just pass through peacefully. Looks like that's going to be hard to do this time. Zeon sensed a pack of desert ants approaching. These guys seem serious. He lowered his center of gravity while raising his hands. Fine, if you want to play, hurry up and bring it on. Zeon gathered a massive amount of mana and slammed it hard against the ground. If you're late, you're going to die at the hands of this old man. Just come at me. The ant pack, which had been concealed by the desert, was forced to reveal its true form by his gale wind. Zeon squatted down, pointing a finger forward in praise. Good. Glad you know how to listen. Sand bomb. Instantly, the sand around his body exploded high into the air. Zeon stood up to find his entire field of vision engulfed in sand. Anyway, a day with a sandstorm like this is pretty cool. Everywhere you look, it's just sand. The moment he turned his gaze, he saw Daoden had already run far ahead, and he screamed, "Where the hell did the old man go? Old man, how could you leave me behind and go all by yourself? You jerk." The dust settled to reveal the desert ants inside. They're angry, sounds echoing everywhere. Have you ever seen anyone live without a single friend or coworker? No wonder you're still all alone in your old age. He quickly ran toward Daoden, whispering under his breath, "If you heard that, I'm sorry." Zeon widened his eyes and muttered, "There's no way he could hear me." His sensing range was within a 10-meter radius. Normally, he was always on guard and never let his defenses down. So if any monsters appeared around here, he could react immediately. However, what he just sensed felt a little different. What he detected right now felt more like pure terror than just a regular magic beast. Immediately after, a swarm of desert ants erupted from the sand. He wiped the sweat from his chin, unable to stop himself from cursing out loud. Damn it, why are there so many? Where did this massive army crawl out from? Zeon glanced at the distant figure and shouted, "Old man, these things, they're numbers." In the distance, Daoden looked perfectly calm, silently taking everything in. But in a flash, Zeon raised his hands to gather mana, gritting his teeth as he muttered, "No, how long am I going to keep crying, old man? Save me like a little kid?" He threw his hands out to create sand dunes, aiming directly at the charging swarm of desert ants. The old man must have sensed them already. If so, then this is a test he's giving me. Zeon stared intently at the swarm of desert ants and shouted, "You damn bugs. Whether there are 1,000 or 10,000 of you, bugs are still just bugs." He swung his arms, and hundreds of sand arrows launched forward, completely blanketing them. Zeon gritted his teeth, relentlessly controlling the sand to assault the swarm of desert ants. Suddenly, A desert ant broke through and charged straight at his face. Xion pressed both hands against its body, flipping backward to dodge it. Holy crap! I take back what I just said. Why are there so many of these bastards? His face twisted with rage. He clenched his fist and slammed it hard into the desert ant, screaming. Using numbers to bully the weak? Cowards! Do you guys have no conscience? Come at me one-on-one if you've got the guts. Xion looked at the massive number of desert ants diving down from above, cursing inwardly. Damn it. Immediately after, the sand on the ground exploded high into the air. This is insane. It's literally a literal anthill. A thick cloud of dust rose high, obscuring the entire view. Xion stood on a shattered boulder, launching himself straight into midair. He narrowed his left eye, which was bleeding continuously, and looked down at the swarm of desert ants. Feels like I just fell straight into a giant anthill. Then Xion turned his head upward and spoke. First, I need to get up high to assess the situation. Good thing you guys don't know how to fight in the air. Bracing one hand on the rock beneath his feet, he turned his head back only to see the desert ants stacking on top of each other, chasing right behind him. His face was filled with disbelief as he cried out, "Are you kidding me? Right? No way. How can this even happen?" A desert ant clamped its mandibles onto one of Xion's legs, letting out a sharp screech. He was forcefully pulled down, his entire body slamming hard against the ground. Xion let out a rough cough, fresh blood continuously spilling from his mouth. He quickly spun around, propping one hand on the ground as he struggled to sit up. His whole body kept shivering violently, racked by continuous coughing fits. He forced himself to lift his head to look into the distance. On the other side, Daoden had his arms crossed, completely indifferent. A faint cry escaped his lips. Old man. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly, revealing his tightly gritted teeth. Xion flashed a smile, looking straight over in that direction. Just keep watching, see how I'm going to survive this. Seeing the sand soaring backward into the air, Daoden responded loudly. That's the spirit. Nice drive. Idiot. The old man silently watched the scene before him, admiring. Your ability is truly a blessing in this world that has turned into a desert. You can definitely use it to live a life that everyone would envy. Daoden narrowed his eyes, the veins on his face bulging fiercely. But if that's all, then everything just stops there. His voice echoed all around the place. Those empty-headed fools don't even understand why the world ended up like this. They just mindlessly chase after illusions. Daoden thought of the mass-produced machinery, whispering, an awakened person is essentially someone who must learn, apply, and develop skills on their own, not through some cookie-cutter factory standardization. He watched the sand continuously exploding and scattering, thinking to himself, I still can't seem to ever forget. Before his eyes appeared the scene of buildings being swallowed by a sea of fire, the horrific tragedy from 100 years ago. The entire city was engulfed in bright red flames. How helpless was I back then? So many people died in vain right before my eyes. Along with the echoing explosions, the fire rapidly devoured all his coworkers, neighbors, and family members. Even his daughter was no exception. Daoden remembered his daughter's tiny hand. I failed to protect anything. Like the biggest pathetic loser on earth. I lost everything right before my eyes. His gaze swept around, effortlessly wiping out the desert ants nearby. But you're different. Daoden looked over in silence, his lips parting slightly. You have the potential to become anyone. Dive into it and cross the line between life and death. The corners of his mouth curled into a smirk, and he enunciated each word sharply. You will become stronger, just like right now. Xion's eyes flashed with a faint light, a spark of madness flitting across his face. You bastards feel it too, don't you? You're completely finished. All around, the desert ants stared relentlessly. Right after that, along with his loud shout, sand from the ground gathered together. High-pressure compressed sand missiles. It sounded simple and crude at best. But a sand missile launched straight into the swarm of desert ants gathered before him. Xion watched it barrel forward and spoke up. If I channel all the gravity, wind power, and every single bit of energy I have. He spread his arms, his face painted with pure joy. Watching it blow up, its power would skyrocket dozens of times over. Zeon stared straight ahead, so pumped up that the veins on his neck bulged. With this move, you guys are history. He raised both hands, steering the sand missile straight down. If you don't kill me before I get a little stronger, you're dead meat. In the distance, Daoden clutched his chest, his face lighting up with genuine joy. That idiot was getting this hyped up over just that. On the other side, Zeon clutched his wounded arm, his eyes completely on guard as he watched the smoke and dust clear, revealing jagged craters ahead. He clenched his fists, letting out a series of triumphant chuckles. Just as he was gloating, a massive pair of mandibles clamped onto his waist from behind. "Old man, you see that? I'm going to slaughter all these bastards." Zeon gritted his teeth, glancing back with utter disbelief written all over his face. How is this possible? He threw his head back and screamed in sheer confusion. How could I not feel even a shred of its presence? Zeon used his bloody hands to grab the tightly clamping mandibles. Stealth? How can these bottom feeders use such a high-level skill? If that's the case, then this is poison. He gnashed his teeth, his face twisting into a hideous grimace as he bellowed. No wonder. I've been having a hell of a time controlling things for a while now. Is it a poison that blocks mana circulation points? Zeon roared furiously toward the front. You absolute bastards. You dare pull a cheap trick like this? A pincer struck him hard from behind, knocking him out cold. A while later, he opened his eyes in the pitch black, cursing under his breath. Damn it. He scanned his surroundings, totally bewildered. Where the hell am I? You damn ants, is this an anthill? Suddenly, Zeon looked up and saw a larva crawling toward him at full speed. He stared at them, unsure what to do. The larvae around him were relentlessly crawling toward his arm. It used its razor-sharp mandibles to bite down hard on his arm. Zeon raised his head to look at the rocky wall, lost in thought. I can't move my body at all anymore. At this rate, they're going to eat my organs and drink my blood while I'm still alive. What do I do now? His vision gradually lost focus, slowly blurring out. His heavy eyelids drooped. Zeon's heart was filled with pure, bitter resentment. Is this the end? The life flash before his eyes was just a larva relentlessly crawling closer, making faint, high-pitched noises. His hands squeezed tight, summoning enough strength to crush it to pieces. Up on the rocky wall, the desert ants hissed fiercely upon witnessing the scene. Below, Zeon clenched his fists and burst into loud laughter, cursing. Motherfucker! He threw his head back and screamed at the top of his lungs. Not a single good memory crossed his mind. This is so unfair. I can't die a pathetic death like this. On his arm, 2 energy bands lit up. You goddamn ants. Right after that, the ground erupted, blasting sand straight into the air. Seeing this, the desert ants quickly gathered, emitting a signaling sound. The ground right beneath its feet exploded violently as well, sending rocks and dirt flying everywhere. The cliffside was rapidly engulfed in a thick cloud of dust as massive chunks of rock continuously blasted apart. Below, Zeon lowered his head as a barrage of sand missiles materialized all around him. Zeon looked down at his arm. I just leveled up. The imprint is gone, and my stamina and mana are surging like crazy. He stared at the 2 glowing bands on it, asking himself uncertainly, did I evolve? Zeon stared intently at his hand, muttering to himself. Compared to back when I was F rank, my strength and mana are on a completely different level now. He glanced over to the left and added, and yet, Zeon was struck with shock upon seeing the massive, nearly unblemished body of the queen ant. Not even a single scratch. Right after that, seeing it charge straight at him, he dove to the side to dodge the attack. Zeon pointed both index fingers at the queen ant, gritting his teeth as he shouted fiercely. That bastard smashed the cliffside like it was a wall of sand. Just how strong is this thing anyway? The sand missiles slammed violently into the queen ant's body, exploding one after another, but they didn't faze it at all. Zeon braced his hands against the ground to steady his body, crying out at the sight. This is insane. Not even a scratch? The guy's a total monster. He exerted so much force that the veins on the back of his hands popped out. At this rate, I won't be able to win. Zeon stared dead at the giant queen ant across from him. No matter how hard I attack right now, I can't even leave a scratch on its body. He held his hands out in front of him as if measuring its entire frame. Time to use my head then. A way to beat an unbreakable armor. Immediately after, the sand beneath the queen ant rose and gathered. Don't break it, don't pierce it, rip it to shreds. The surrounding sand converged like a thick rope, binding its entire body tight. Zeon watched the streams of sand pour out from his tightly clenched fists. Right, if I can't destroy it, I'll just twist that armor and strip it right off. As the sand relentlessly tightened around it, the queen ant let out a screech followed by a roar. A bright ball of energy formed between its mandibles. Zeon kept controlling the surrounding sand, aiming to completely trap the queen ant inside. Spotting the glowing orb, his jaw dropped as he screamed. Are you insane? What the hell is that? Zeon felt a sharp pain as if his eardrums were being pierced, and it hit him. Infrasound? No, ultrasound. At this rate, I'm going to get blown to pieces. The residual shock waves from that light orb kept blasting toward where he stood. Zeon lowered his head, gritting his teeth as his face twisted into a fierce scowl, cursing. You piece of shit, saving a move like this for the very end? A white light flashed in his eyes as fresh blood kept pouring out. Fine, let's dance. You son of a bitch. Staring straight at the queen ant in the distance, he screamed. Let's see who dies first, you or me. He felt the low frequency continuously rattling deep in his body. Only one way to find out. His eyes widened, completely bloodshot and savage. Until one of us drops dead. Come at me, you bastard. After a moment, the light in his hands snapped, and his entire body collapsed backward. His eyes were wide open, his face masked in pure shock. What's going on? He fell backward involuntarily, thinking to himself, I'm screwed. I hit my limit a while ago. His vision blurred out, losing control of his body as he fell. Why the hell is this body so damn weak? Daoden scooped his entire body into his arms. Seriously, you are so weak it's infuriating. The corners of his mouth twitched up into a mocking smirk. Sleeping here will paralyze your face, kid. Moron. Hearing that, Zeon called out to the old man with a massive grin. His voice came out faint and weak. I'll let you have the finishing blow. Hearing this, Daoden couldn't help but burst into a hearty laugh. What a cheeky brat. Looks like you're not a total waste of space after all. He turned his head to look at the queen ant's body, which had been sliced clean in half. The queen ant is C rank. She's way stronger than you. Even so, the fact that you didn't give up and dared to fight with your life on the line is commendable. You deserve to keep living. Zeon closed his eyes, resting his head against Daoden's chest. I can't hear a damn thing you're saying. My eardrums are totally shot. Right after that, the old man casually hoisted him up by the collar with one hand. Just your eardrums, huh? Being lugged up by Daoden, Zeon looked utterly bewildered. Hey, old man, where the hell do you think you're going all of a sudden? The old man turned to look at the queen ant in the nearby ruins and walked over, carrying him along. Zeon pouted, staring intently at it, and asked in confusion, Now what? He pointed a finger at the queen ant's egg, raising an eyebrow. The old man smiled warmly as he looked over, placing a hand on a stone tablet engraved with words. Daoden placed his hand on the stone monument, which read, Eat it, it's medicine. Zeon saw this and felt a wave of suspicion. What the actual hell? He really wants me to eat that? That thing. His eyes widened as he stared at the queen ant, thinking, how the hell am I supposed to eat that? Zeon looked up, testing the waters. Old man, I'm just asking to be sure. I won't go crazy and lose my mind after eating this like when I ate that sandworm honey, right? Daoden averted his gaze, answering nonchalantly. Eating that will probably kill you instantly. Watching the old man's mouth move, Zeon flipped out internally. Damn it. I can't hear a word he's saying. Finally giving in, he opened his mouth wide and bit into the queen ant. Whatever, I doubt I'll drop dead on the spot. He swallowed it down his throat, thinking, I don't even know what strawberries taste like. But immediately after, his face lit up with pure joy, and he looked up in admiration. Holy crap, this is freaking delicious. His eyes flew wide open, veins popping out intensely. Got any more, old man? Feeling sharp spikes sprouting from inside his body, Zeon stammered, Old man, what the? He looked down as he felt his body transforming, his organs turning upside down, meaning his stomach and intestines were being twisted and completely inverted. The queen ant's egg was incredibly toxic. Just a tiny bite was enough to turn a person's organs inside out. In other words, anyone who ate it would have their internal organs shredded by spikes and inverted until they vomited from the agonizing pain of their guts tearing apart and died. Zeon clutched his head with both hands, screaming hysterically, "No! What the hell is this? What the hell did you just feed me?" Deoden picked his ear, frowning in annoyance. "You're too damn loud. If you want to survive in this crazy world, you better get used to it." Zeon puffed his cheeks, unable to hold back his retort. "How the hell am I supposed to get used to something like this?" He coughed up a huge splash of blood, cursing furiously. "Damn it!" Zeon stared down at his bloodstained hands. "In this trash life of mine, I really believed I finally found someone I could trust." The image of sitting by the campfire with Deoden flashed through his mind, and he thought, "In the end, I really am an idiot." Deoden lowered his head, cold sweat rolling down his face continuously. He stood dead still, watching Zeon's entire body collapse flat onto the ground. Deoden reached down to lift and inspect the severed lower half of the queen ant. He then plunged his hand deep inside, searching around. Deoden's hand went deep into its body, quickly rummaging through everything. After a moment, he grabbed the queen ant's mana stone and ripped it out forcefully. A massive grin spread across his face as he stared at the glowing stone in his hand. A magical beast mana stone is on a totally different level compared to the ones from a mines. We hit the freaking jackpot. He quickly pocketed the mana stone into his pouch, scanning the area before making a decision. Looks like this ant actually has some uses, so I might as well harvest the whole thing. Deoden was startled in surprise when he noticed Grayan emitting a faint light. He glanced over to the side, murmuring under his breath, "My old friend." Deoden looked down at Zahn, who was lying flat on the ground, and added, "Yeah, I know, but there's no other choice. The weak die. That's just how the cookie crumbles." With that, he quickly pulled Grayan out of the ground, preparing to turn around and leave. Deoden still didn't look back. "You know it well, too. We don't have much time left." After a long while, Zeon stared at the fresh blood in front of him, asking in utter disbelief, "What? I'm still alive." Right after that, Deoden leaned in close with a massive smirk. "Yo, you awake?" "Moron." Dust and sand instantly blasted high into the air, completely enveloping everything inside. He swung his hand, snapping in irritation. "You cheeky brat. What the hell are you doing kicking up all this damn dust?" The idiot looked up, raising an eyebrow slightly to confirm. "Seriously?" The old man looked at the sand missiles surrounding Zeon and spoke up. "Are you for real right now, idiot?" Deoden stared at them with complete composure as they aimed straight at him. "Hey, moron, stop throwing a tantrum and just..." Zeon raised his hands, controlling the sand to continuously strike at Deoden. "Why?" He watched frantically as torrents of sand surged from all directions, relentlessly attacking. "Why were you trying to kill me?" The surrounding sand swirled violently alongside his echoing demands. "Just tell me why." He swung his hand, his eyes filled with absolute resolve. "I will never forgive you." From beneath the ground, sharp stone pillars rapidly shot up high into the air. Under Zeon's control, sand rushed in from all sides, smashing the stone pillars to pieces. He raised both hands, maintaining a relentless assault toward Deoden. Deoden held his ground, raising a hand while letting out a heavy pant. Zeon looked over, his voice cold as he demanded again. "I asked you why you wanted to." Deoden roared back furiously. "Jesus Christ, you total moron. What the hell do you think you're doing?" He stood behind the stone pillars with his arms crossed, teasing him. "I know the queen ant's egg is toxic and messes with your head, but couldn't you use your damn brain for a second?" Zeon was completely flabbergasted, thinking, what the hell? He just stood there and took all my attacks head on, and he doesn't have a single scratch on him. Deoden's eyebrows knitted together as he explained calmly. "Dummy, if I wanted you dead, I could have ended you with a snap of my fingers. Why the hell would I go through the trouble of poisoning you? Think about it." Hearing that, he fell silent for a long moment, stammering, "I guess that makes sense." Right after, the old man's voice rang out again. "The queen ant's egg is indeed a potent poison that flips your organs, but on the flip side, It purges all the toxins and impurities from your body. Depending on how you use it, it's either a lethal poison or a top-tier miracle drug. It literally washed out all the garbage inside you. Zeon stood frozen, listening intently to Diodon's words. And then it fills those empty spots with mana. When you attacked me just now, you felt it yourself, didn't you? Prompted by his words, he immediately clenched his fists, sensing that his mana pool had surged 3 or 4 times over. Once it registered, he looked over at the old man, feeling totally anxious. He instantly lunged forward and hugged Diodon tightly. I'm so sorry for doubting you. My brain must have short-circuited just now. How could I ever doubt you? The old man looked down and replied gently, All right, you absolute hypermoron. I get it, so get the hell off me. What kind of grown man clings to someone like this? It's gross. Zeon's face was covered in tears, his teeth gritted to stifle his crying. It's not like I enjoy it either. Wait, I can hear you. It actually cured my ears too. Diodon looked down with a smile, nudging him. Dummy, you're a grown-ass man, crying like a baby. Let go already. He refused, keeping his head buried. No way, I'm not done yet. Sensing his emotions, the old man thought back. Yeah, I know. I get it. My old friend. Honestly, it wouldn't have been surprising if he actually kicked the bucket back there. Zeon raised his tear-and-snot-stained face to check the situation. Man, that was a close call. You probably won't hold a grudge now, right? That damage control was pretty solid. Diodon looked at his face and thought, the only reason he survived is because he's tough. He clenched his fist so hard that his veins bulged. If he doesn't get strong fast, he's useless to me. Talk about a massive gamble on a piece of junk. Diodon scooped him up with one arm. All right, you ready to roll? He muttered softly in his heart. You idiot, don't you dare forgive me. Dummy. He frowned, glaring at the old man. Why are you grabbing me again? The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a row of perfectly straight teeth. The old man beamed, pointing a finger upward. We don't have much time, so we better haul ass out of here. Don't you think? Zeon rolled his eyes, his face breaking into a cold sweat. Damn it, don't tell me you're gonna. Up on the surface, a few scorpions were chilling together when a sudden surge of power blasted through the ground, skyrocketing straight into the air. Diodon laughed out loud, carrying him with one hand. How's that, moron? Way faster, right? Zeon brandished his fist, screaming furiously. Fast to my ass. Can't you just walk like a normal human being for once? The old man turned his head and barked back. Then don't go sleeping like a log for 4 straight days. Diodon frowned, shifting his gaze to the side. A weakling like you is never going to get a wife. Wait, what the hell is that? Hearing this, Zeon followed his gaze over there. Now what? At this point, nothing can surprise me anymore. His eyes widened in sheer shock, and all he could do was let out a gasp of amazement. Spotting the colossal figure ahead, Zeon yelled at the top of his lungs. Holy crap! What the hell is that thing? Zeon stared intently over there, wondering. Even though it's at least 20 miles away, that magical beast is still that massive. Diodon let go, quickly touching down on the ground. They just can't give us a moment of peace, can they? That's the mobile fortress, Archilon. Hearing that, he echoed in confusion. Archilon. The old man stared at its gargantuan legs, confirming. Yeah, it's a B-rank turtle-type magical beast, but its defense easily blows past A rank. People modify its shell and tame it to use as a transport vehicle. Zeon's jaw dropped in absolute amazement as he asked, Are you telling me people actually ride that insane monster? Diodon shot him a glance and confirmed, Damn straight. Take a good look, moron. He looked up, his mouth hanging wide open as the old man's voice rang in his ears. This world is a massive place. Diodon crossed his arms and said, And out there are freaks capable of controlling a monster like that. The old man watched the towering Archilon draw closer. Inscribe that image deep into your mind. From atop the creature, a figure leaped off Archilon's shell, using the momentum to plunge straight down. In the blink of an eye, he landed right in front of the two. The voice of the man wearing glasses rang out. It was too far, so I wasn't entirely sure. But it really is. Zeon stood by the side, completely stunned. What the? Diodon commanded without even turning his head. Stay right there, moron. The man with glasses narrowed his eyes, taking a closer look. It's been a while, hasn't it, Daoden?
Daoden mocked his old acquaintance in the barren desert. Long time no see, and it looks like you've lost even more teeth than before. Pavilsa, the old man's name was Pavilsa, let out a long sigh. Good grief, you really are a freak. You're over 100 years old and still that agile. Daoden gave a non-committal smirk. Anyway, what brings you here? This isn't your turf. Pavilsa continued. Ah, there's a bunch of scavenger scum causing trouble. Xian looked back and forth between the two overlords, his face filled with confusion and anxiety as Daoden spoke. Running away from some junk-collecting scavengers? You're wasting food growing old. Pavilsa shot back sharply, that's called wisdom, unlike an ignorant, brute peasant like you. The protagonist wondered about the absurdity of their strength in his head. Wait, isn't it normal for people to get weaker as they age? Why the hell are these old geezers so ridiculously strong? Pavilsa casually blew a piercing whistle as the massive, dusty silhouette of a giant beast began to rise behind him. Forget it, what's the point of talking to you anyway? Even the sand sank and shifted violently, causing Xian to look up with wide, astonished amber eyes as a massive shadow loomed over him. Oh, this is insane. The giant beast, the size of an entire mountain, slowly leaned down, completely overshadowing the tiny figures standing before it. Xian stepped back in pure terror, sweating profusely under the beast's overwhelming gaze. I'd better keep my mouth shut right now. Pavilsa glanced down at the trembling figure with a hint of curiosity. That's a face I haven't seen before. A disciple? Daoden chuckled. Well, I was thinking about the environment and picked up some trash. With a booming laugh, Pavilsa said, a guy like you actually dragging someone along with him. The world must be coming to an end. Stepping inside, Xian gaped in absolute disbelief. He stared at the unimaginably massive, bustling civilization built directly on the turtle's back. Oh, what kind of crazy place is this? Walking through the vibrant, sun-drenched streets of the moving city, Pavilsa led the way while Daoden explained their surroundings. It was the Pavilsa clan. When the protagonist asked if they were all related by blood, the old man added, yeah, they're all descendants of Pavilsa, a bunch of idiots who think they're the chosen ones. In reality, they can't do a damn thing without my protection. Glancing back over his shoulder, Pavilsa glared defensively. Humph, what do you know about our clan to run your mouth like that? Daoden dropped a cold hard truth. I know more than enough. They're just dead weight that I'll abandon the moment you die. Isn't that right? Pavilsa lowered his gaze. We can talk about that later. Inside a magnificent, lavishly decorated vault, Daoden sat comfortably by an extravagant table as Pavilsa spoke. All right, let's look at the goods first. Daoden flashed a confident smirk. Be my guest. Then he raised his arm, opening a swirling, pitch-black spatial portal right in the middle of the room. A mountain of priceless treasure, golden trophies, rare gems, and massive beast skulls poured violently out of the void, leaving Xian completely dumbfounded. Oh, this is insane. What is all this stuff? Just how many lives did you take? Daoden spoke in a voice that sent chills down the boy's spine. You'll be counted among them soon enough. Leaning forward, the protagonist demanded answers. Anyway, old man, I've been wondering from the start. Are you some kind of mage type? Where are you pulling all this stuff from? Leaning forward, the protagonist demanded answers. Anyway, old man, I've been wondering from the start. Are you some kind of mage type? Where are you pulling all this stuff from? He shouted at the old man immediately. Would it kill you to tell me? Blaring back with absolute authority, Daoden snapped right back, oh, you dare talk back to me? Gutsy brat. Meanwhile, Pavilsa carefully examined a glowing beast fong. Humph, still as impressive as always. Every single piece is a top-tier, flawless item. Looking over his shoulder, Daoden added, cut the flattery, how much are you paying for it? Should I pay you in mana crystals? Hearing this, Daoden drew his greatsword, prompting old man Pavilsa to back down. All right, that's enough, calm down. You don't have a single shred of humor in you. Since you don't have much use for mana crystals, what do you want? Daoden's expression hardened as he stated his exact price. A breastplate made from the corpse of the wolf spider king, and a subspatial item as well. Pavilsa questioned the bizarre request. What would you even use a breastplate for? And you already have more than enough subspatial storage. Reaching out, Daoden grabbed the boy just as he took a sip of water. Not for me, this idiot is going to use it. A look of deep shock made Pavilsa's eyes widen, recognizing the unprecedented bond that the lone wolf had formed. A look of deep shock made Pavilsa's eyes widen, recognizing the unprecedented bond that the lone wolf had formed. Pavilsa projected his voice with absolute, commanding authority. As the heavy door slowly creaked open, Kelly's amber eyes lit up with pure, unadulterated awe. Wow, a striking woman, walking gracefully into the grand vault. Did you call for me, grandfather? That body of hers instantly paralyzed his heart. She's so beautiful. The old man asked further, do you still have that subspatial bracelet you made before? Tapping her chin thoughtfully, she continued, I don't have the bracelet anymore, but I do have a gauntlet. The magic engraved on it was so successful that I've been keeping it very carefully. Pavilsa issued a non-negotiable order. That gauntlet, give it to this kid. Instantly flaring up, Kelly yelled, what? That precious thing? Throwing his head back, Daoden burst into a roaring laugh. Ha ha. Turns out that little girl has become an enchanting witch, huh? Kelly shrank back before the terrifying presence. Eat? Hello, senior. You still look quite spry. Daoden said right away, an enchanting witch is a rare profession even in Neo Seoul, as expected of Pavilsa's granddaughter. The girl has acquired quite a useful ability, she stammered, completely overwhelmed. Yes, I suppose that's good. Pavilsa dismissed her from the room to ease her discomfort. You probably feel uncomfortable here, so go ahead and tell Noelle to forge a breastplate. Glaring at him, she snapped her order. Understood. Hey, follow me, I'll give you the gauntlet. The protagonist, totally smitten, eagerly trotted behind her, a goofy, love-struck grin plastered across his face. Stopping abruptly, Kelly looked over her shoulder with a suspicious glare. What's your relationship with that monster? Zeon shook off the terrifying association. Monster? Oh, you mean that old man? I just happened to run into him, and now I'm just being dragged around by him everywhere. Her face contorted into a mask of utter panic and disbelief. What? By chance, and you're still alive while being dragged around by him? And by that monster of all people? A look of profound, empathetic realization dawned on him. Ah, this woman sees it, she sees it clearly. A traumatic, horrifying memory flashed, showing Daoden like a literal bloody demon violently tearing beasts apart with his bare hands. As expected, monsters are best torn apart with bare hands. She must be just like me. Kelly offered a piece of advice. Well, you'd better be careful anyway. That thing is a monster in human skin. Nodding with exhausted understanding, he completely agreed. Stopping proudly before a heavy metal door, Kelly placed her hands on her hips with a triumphant smirk. Yep, my workshop. Try not to be too surprised, because you're about to see something like this for the first time in your life. Zeon's eyes went completely wide with pure wonder. Are all of these items? She bragged with unyielding passion. That's right, they're all items made by my own hands. Except for the dungeon-made ones, these are absolute masterpieces. Furthermore, do you see this? The exquisite blend of armored starfish frame and adamantium not only provides subspatial storage, but it also has a self-repair function. It is a masterpiece among masterpieces. He asked eagerly, self-repair means it heals itself? She detailed its terrifying potential. Exactly, and it's also embedded with a fire attribute. Depending on what kind of fire attribute item you equip it with, it will become an unimaginable beast. Staring at the flawless gear, a hint of genuine guilt crept into his voice. Is it really okay for me to take this? Annoyance flared on her face. Well, grandfather told me to give it to you, so, and you can only insert an item into it exactly once. So once it's done, you can't take it out. Keep that in mind. Reaching out greedy hands with a sly grin, he said, hee. I'll keep that in mind. I'll gladly accept it then. A violent tug-of-war. Desperation instantly broke out. She flat out refused to let go of her masterpiece. I can't give it up. I won't. I can't hand over my precious brainchild to some nobody like you. I can't give it up. I won't. I can't hand over my precious brainchild to some nobody like you. The protagonist aggressively yanked it back with all his might. What the hell do you want me to do? Sorry, but this thing is mine now. Her brainchild, nurtured so carefully, was now. Rumble, a sudden, terrifying earthquake violently shook the entire workshop, instantly putting an end to their chaotic argument. Freezing in place, he looked around anxiously, wondering if he should give it back. His eyes widened with horror. No. It's not that. This cry from Archilon is true loyalty. He looked around hysterically. Who is loyal? The vibration caused everyone present in the city to look up with an ominous foreboding. Pavilsa narrowed his eyes and spoke up. These guys are persistent. Those scavenger bastards. A massive masked army seeking absolute destruction. The protagonist asked her, are those the scavengers? Kelly confirmed, yeah, they're a notorious gang that's been expanding their territory rapidly lately. Cold sweat ran down his pale face. Who exactly are they? She explained the massive threat they posed in a panic. The Black Shark Pirate Gang. Their captain is a D-rank awakened psycho, and every single one of his high-ranking officers is an awakened scavenger. They don't just plunder, they're murderous psychopaths who kill without blinking an eye. Hearing this, Zeon was surprised. What? Even though he's only a D-rank? Screaming at the top of her lungs, she burst through the large doors. Grandfather! Senior, they're here. Those bastards are. Pavilsa remained completely calm. I see them too. Kelly hurriedly asked if they should move Archilon, to which the old man replied immediately. They'll catch up to us in a heartbeat. Now is the time to fight. Hearing this, Kelly hurriedly replied, understood. I'll gather the warriors right away. But right at that moment, old man Diodon's voice cut in. Not you guys, we will handle this. Kelly stammered and asked what he meant, to which old man Diodon added, hey kid, you're taking the lead in this fight. Pointing anxiously at his own chest, the protagonist was completely dumbfounded, his amber eyes wide with fear as the old man mercilessly backed him into a corner, forcing him to fight. Yeah, kid, you already took the treasure, so were you planning on doing nothing? You have to return the favor, right? Zeon hastily replied, but how can I beat a D-rank? The old man cut him off instantly. So what? Is the idiot scared too? A blank, paralyzing void of a challenge. A moment later, standing completely alone on the sand, the tiny silhouette of the protagonist prepared to face the oncoming storm under the apocalyptic desert sky. Damn it, seriously, damn it. I can't believe I fell for such a cheap provocation. He definitely has experience. That old man is incredibly cunning. Phew, calm down, I don't have time for this. They'll be here in about 5 minutes. I need to figure out a way to defeat an awakened who is a higher rank than me. I'm asking if it's really okay to leave that kid alone? Didn't you say he's only an E rank? Diodon fully accepted the harsh laws of the wasteland. If he loses, he dies, it's that simple. Pavilsa shook his head. You're still as extreme as always. Then he thought to himself, even a tiger cub can be bitten to death by dogs when it's still small. A deep spark of curiosity flashed in Pavilsa's eyes, wondering if the boy truly possessed the inner beast required to survive. Pavilsa, however, thought that if the child could show his fangs. Suddenly, the old man shouted out to the protagonist. Hey kid, just remember this one thing. But those words didn't reach the protagonist, everything felt like a passing wind. Rushing relentlessly through the suffocating sandstorm, the bloodthirsty scavengers finally closed the distance. Their second-in-command shouted to the leader, we've finally caught up to them. Captain, should I tell them to pick out the useful ones to sell? A crazed smile from the captain, who intended to chop off all their limbs and throw them to the Archelons as food. The gang leader launched a brutal assault, charging forward alongside his aggressive crew. Engrave it into their minds that we are the Black Shark Pirates. It's time for a massacre. Man, I'm really concerned about how they can call themselves pirates when there isn't a single drop of water around, guys. A large cavalry force galloped across the desert dunes. A heavy hoof was sucked down into the sand, falling into a strange sinkhole. The bandits shrieked in utter chaos, what is this? The entire desert floor split violently apart, ruthlessly swallowing camels and riders alike as chaos reigned supreme. The sand is splitting. Fall back, fall back. Completely shattering the pirates' formation in the blink of an eye, he landed safely on the ground. Gawain glared with wide eyes, the sand had moved. A subordinate spoke up behind him, Captain, are you all right? Rushing to his leader's side, he shouted, Klein, did these bastards set a trap? She replied instantly, "No, there's absolutely no way this is a trap. Could one of them be?" Without a single word of warning, a terrifying dark figure materialized right behind the female pirate, causing her eyes to widen in pure, unadulterated horror. "What subordinate? Since when?" Roaring with absolute fury, the captain aggressively charged forward. "You bastard, get your hands off!" Squelch! A massive, razor-sharp sand spike burst violently through the woman in a blinding explosion of force, spraying dark blood across the battlefield as the captain watched in horror. Gawain's exposed eye twitched violently, paralyzed by the sheer brutality, standing completely drenched in a gruesome rain of blood behind his falling victim, the protagonist's face entirely shrouded in pitch-black shadows. His voice was a cold whisper. "Next." Casually wiping the fresh blood from his cheek with the back of his hand without a hint of hesitation or mercy, he erupted with a terrifying red aura. Another bandit angrily swung his katana down ruthlessly, attempting to slice him in half. The brilliant red slash aimed straight for the protagonist's head. Lightly leaping out of the way, he evaded the massive wave of energy, letting it harmlessly carve a deep fissure into the desert floor. His speed left the man in utter shock. "What the hell is this guy? He dodged my slash? No, did he parry it?" The captain's voice echoed over. "Mashimoto." Looking down, massive swirling sand dunes erupted violently below, turning the battlefield into a death trap. He aggressively brought his glowing red sword down in an arc. The leader shouted with pure bloodlust, "You stupid brat, what kind of trick is this?" When he threw a punch at him, he only hit sand. The captain blew away the sand and blurted out. When he threw a punch at him, he only hit sand. The captain blew away the sand and blurted out, "You think a little bit of sand can stop me, Mashimoto? This guy looks like he's controlling something." A pincer attack, when suddenly thick, dark drops of blood quietly splattered onto the sand right in front of him, freezing the captain in his tracks. A blinding flash of violently compressed sand completely obliterated Mashimoto's head, killing the bandit instantly. Slowly turning around, his amber eyes glowed with a cold, terrifying brilliance amidst the blowing dust. A profound flashback pulled him back to his final lesson. Old man Pavilsa's booming voice resonated in his mind. "Hey kid, listen closely. You're probably more worried about killing a human being than fighting a D-rank. But remember this well, those bastards aren't human." Xian asked back, "They're not?" To which the old man replied instantly, "That's right, they take pleasure in killing. They torture and slaughter without any reason at all. They pride themselves on raping women and murdering children. More than 200 people have died at their hands. Do you really think creatures like that are human?" Standing firm in the present, he fully accepted his role as executioner. Completely consumed by a frenzied rage, the captain channeled his exploding red aura. His eyes bulged with pure hatred. "You bastard, you son of a bitch!" A destructive barrage of ultra-compressed sand bullets pelted down furiously like rain upon the charging captain. Brutally defending himself with a spherical shield, the leader shouted defiantly, "You can still fire? You think this pile of sand is enough to beat me? You piece of trash, I won't let you die peacefully. I'll cut you piece by piece and feed you to the magical beasts. I'll make you listen to the screams of your family while you're being eaten alive. I'll make you beg for death." Glancing over his shoulder under the golden sky, he asked one final question. "Hey, are those your last words?" His bloodshot eyes went insane, twitching violently, completely blinded by his own boiling bloodlust. Gripping the hilt of his weapon, his glowing eyes locked onto the monster before him, delivering a cold, merciless verdict. "You piece of trash." Gawain let out a desperate gasp on the sand, reflecting on his fallen comrades. "Ha, calling us trash, are you? Klein, Mashimoto, they were all people I recognized. They would never be defeated by some amateur. What kind of power is this kid using, anyway?" Clenching his scarred fist, he glared with unadulterated fury. "I'm done playing your trick games. Why don't you show the real power hidden in the sand? If you're a true awakened, stop hiding and face me." A destructive vortex of crimson energy violently tore through the battlefield, leaving Gawain frantically searching through the swirling dust before slamming his fists together in utter shock. What's next? He's gone. Where is he? Before his eyes, there was only endless sand. Right at that moment, the protagonist swung a slash at his neck, but only the shattering clank of the protagonist's sword rang out. He was heavily shocked as the captain's red aura flared up brilliantly. Did he anticipate my attack? Did he lure me in? Gawain looked back over his shoulder with a smirk. "Finally, you're within my attack range." Boom! He ruthlessly weighed down on his chest, pinning him battered to the ground. You aren't even a proper combat type, yet you closed the distance like that. You don't know a damn thing, do you? A single mistake in battle will cost you your life. I'll make you feel every single blow. This one is for Mashimoto. An earth-shattering explosion of crimson magical energy violently erupted at point-blank range right on top of him, sending massive shockwaves that tore through the desert floor. This one is for Klein, for Alea, for Ezreal, for Maras, for Chavaria, and for Kael. No matter what your ability is, it's useless once I have you in my grasp. Blame your own weakness and die. Suddenly, his arm was caught by another set of hands. What? I'm holding you tight. Behind him, a pair of hands emerging from the sand held him firmly in place. Gawain looked at those hands, his face contorting into an angry snarl. He took off his gauntlets to escape, that damn cowardly rat. At this moment, the protagonist continuously unleashed grains of sand at him. He was blown far away, thinking to himself, a fatal mistake. I panicked and let him go. But this wound, the power behind it has clearly dropped. His attacks have obviously lost momentum. Those gauntlets must have amplified his power. He's definitely a wind system, a rare type among magic systems. He's using the sand to add physical force. Erupting with a fresh, overwhelming aura of red combat magic, Gawain frantically rushed toward him. I've figured out all your tricks. Now that you've lost your gauntlets, you're not that strong anymore. A magic system without an amplifier? You think you can beat a close combat system? A massive, razor-sharp sand spike burst violently from the ground right behind the captain, ruthlessly impaling him through the chest, and launching him into the air as his eyes rolled back in absolute, sheer shock. He targeted my back, staring in absolute horror at the person currently standing with a bloodthirsty smirk. You bastard, you finally lowered your guard, Gawain cursed with his final breath. You son of a bitch, you're using the same trick on me again? Wait, he doesn't have his gauntlets. It's impossible for a magic system to channel this much power through sand without an item to amplify their ability. It's simply impossible. This kid, don't tell me, no. That can't be true. An ability that controls sand and manipulates the world itself shouldn't even exist. He was slowly swallowed by the sand until his life was completely gone. The swirls settled peacefully. Pavilsa observed from afar, his weathered face completely frozen in pure astonishment. That kid can control sand, the entire world is his weapon and his shield. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Furthermore, Gawain was a scavenger with extensive combat experience. If they had fought head-on, the boy's life would have been in danger. The child used his status as an anomaly. To lure his opponent into lowering his guard, he waited for the perfect opening. The experience required to make those kinds of split-second decisions, he acquired all of it through sheer instinct. No matter how absurd that might sound, he pulled that off right in the dead center of a battle. He turned around and spoke in a low, quiet voice. That kid is no mere tiger cub, that's for damn sure. Daoden, where the hell did you find a monster like that? After the battle finally drew to a close, the scene shifted to Xion. His condition was honestly a total mess, his face was swollen and covered in blood. His body was bruised from head to toe, and even the slightest movement sent a sharp, stabbing pain straight to his bones. Even so, a faint smirk formed on his lips as he recalled the recent fight. That was a close one, he muttered, gasping for breath. That was seriously dangerous. The image of Gain's terrifying punches was still vividly burned into his mind. Nobody knew better than him that he had almost lost. Just one hit in the wrong spot, and it would have been lights out. As he spoke, Xion wiped the blood from his face and let out a soft chuckle. But the old man will probably praise me for this fight. Hell yeah! Despite going through all kinds of pain, Xion somehow felt a strange sense of satisfaction. However, before he could even relax, something happened that caught everyone's attention instantly. A new path opened up. The entire area seemed to shake, revealing a previously hidden passage that no one had ever seen before. Xion stared in surprise, but before he could say a word, an angry voice echoed through the area. You absolute idiot! You dare come back after finishing a fight like that? It was Daoden. The old warrior's face was flushed red with anger, his eyes glaring straight at Xion. Xion blinked, completely dazed. Daoden? At least tell me why. What did I do wrong this time? He genuinely didn't understand why Daoden was so pissed off. But that exact innocence only made Daoden even more furious. "That bastard you spared," Daoden roared. "You didn't realize it? He was planning to stab you in the back. You couldn't even predict that?" The accusation left Zeon completely stunned. He never expected that to be the reason. Daoden didn't give him a chance to talk back, continuing to yell, "How long do you plan on keeping that smug attitude?" His voice was sharp and merciless. With that, Daoden stepped down, sword in hand, his face a clear mix of rage and disappointment. "Get lost." The words were harsh, but they were filled with genuine care. Nearby, Pavela and Kay quietly witnessed the entire exchange. Nobody chimed in. They just stood there, watching Daoden reaming Zeon out. "It's not too late," Daoden continued, his voice heavy with frustration. "Go back." It was obvious the old man believed that Zeon's kindness and habit of forgiving his enemies would ultimately become a fatal weakness. An awkward silence hung thick in the air. Suddenly, a voice called out from ahead, "Thank you." Everyone turned around. Pavela and Kelly had stepped down and walked over. They spoke in a calm, sincere tone. "All the people of Arkalon are civilians who don't know how to fight. We in the MC clan aren't warriors by nature." Pavela stepped forward, speaking with absolute sincerity. "We are all blacksmiths. The only thing we know how to do is swing our hammers at scavengers. Without you, I can't bear to imagine how many people would have died. Seriously, thank you. You did a great job." Before Zeon could even reply, Kelly rushed forward and wrapped him in a tight hug. "Yeah, you were so incredibly cool. You defeated the entire Black Shark gang all by yourself. Don't pay any mind to what that monster Daoden says. His standards are always sky high. When I forged my very first knife as a kid." But before she could finish, Zeon quietly cut her off in a low voice. "No, I knew Mashimoto would attack me when I spared him. But I still didn't kill him." His voice was calm but heavy with self-reproach. "I tried to ignore that reality. I just wanted him to pass out and disappear. I knew they were evil. I knew they deserved to die. But I just didn't have the guts to be the one to end them. It was for a single, cowardly reason. I just didn't want to carry the guilt of killing someone." The air instantly went dead silent. "Old man Daoden is right," Zeon continued. "He's probably seen countless people like me die for that exact reason, which is why he spoke so harshly. Maybe that's just his own way of caring about me." Hearing that, Pavela let out a soft sigh. "Daoden is just terrible at expressing himself." The explanation was simple but spot on. Daoden's heavy words sounded cruel, but they likely came from a place of experience, not malice. After hearing Zeon's confession, neither Pavela nor Kelly knew what to say. The two of them just stood there in silence. They had intended to comfort him and praise him for saving everyone. But only now did they see the heavy burden he was carrying. While everyone viewed him as a hero who saved the village from destruction, Zeon could only think about the lives he lacked the resolve to take and the consequences that might follow. All the gratitude, admiration, and praise around him couldn't erase the gnawing guilt and hesitation in his heart. Meanwhile, Daoden was sitting alone in his room, his expression completely casual as if nothing had happened. Suddenly, the door burst open. Zeon stormed in, yelling, "Why are you pretending you aren't even here?" Daoden slowly turned his head, a mocking smirk playing on his lips. "Oh, look who it is, our little scaredy cat." The teasing grin on his face grew wider by the second. "Come to say goodbye and go home?" Zeon frowned immediately. "What's with that tone?" He crossed his arms, trying to act tough. "Old man, you're seriously underestimating me. Let me make one thing clear, I am not that weak. That whole thing was nothing." But before he could keep up the act, Daoden calmly cut him off. "And yet, your hands are still shaking." Zeon froze. Only now did he realize his fingers were trembling slightly. Daoden's gaze softened, becoming dead serious. "It's normal. You'd have to be insane not to shake." The room fell into a hush as the old man continued, "Killing a person isn't easy." Every single word carried the undeniable weight of experience. "It's ending a life. And that guilt will stay with you forever." Zeon listened in silence, unable to argue back. Daoden's voice was no longer sarcastic or aggressive, it was just the brutal truth from someone who had lived through it. "So there's no need to try and forget it," Daoden said softly. "And there's no need to numb yourself, either. That guilt, hold on to it. Remember this. If it tortures you, that's proof you're still human. If it's too much to handle, you can pack up and leave right now. The old man offered an out, but Zeon shook his head instantly. I already told you, I'm not backing down. It's not a problem for me. I'll protect my own skin, so don't you worry. After speaking, he flashed a grin and added, besides, how could I leave a stubborn old man like you all by yourself? I'll stick around so you don't die of loneliness. In that brief moment, Daoden actually smiled a rare, genuine smile. Zeon continued smugly, anyway, having me around makes things a lot less lonely, right? The old man stayed silent. Be honest with yourself. Zeon crossed his arms confidently. Without me, who's gonna clean up your corpse? Instantly, Daoden's fist came flying right at him. Whoa, wait. Use your words, not your fists. Zeon's panicked shout echoed through the room as the old man immediately resorted to his favorite method of communication. Though their serious talk had just ended, an extraordinary sight was unfolding inside the forge. A massive gathering of master blacksmiths had assembled in one place, completely focused on a single task. The air vibrated with intense heat and soul energy as they worked relentlessly, pouring all their passion and skill into their craft. Kelly's eyes went wide at the sight. My God, I've never seen so many master smiths gathered in one place. Pavela stood beside her, nodding as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Makes sense. They're tempering the soul of Daoden's sword. Still, Kelly couldn't hide her awe. But it's already been days. She looked at the sword again. How can a single blade exude such terrifying power? A nearby blacksmith let out a sigh and replied slowly, this crayon sword is a masterpiece. A weapon forged entirely out of a man's obsession. His eyes remained glued to the blade. That's really the only way to put it. But that answer only made Kelly more curious. But I've never seen anything like this. I can't believe it was made by human hands. It has countless enchantments, hundreds of thousands of cores, and even the souls of beasts embedded within it. A shiver ran down her spine. To be completely honest, it feels more like a living creature than a sword. The sword seemed to possess a life of its own, as if it were breathing. Who on earth forged this? Kelly whispered, her eyes locked onto the weapon. Are they even human? Her grandfather finally spoke up, Crayon. Kelly blinked. Huh? So the blacksmith and the sword have the exact same name? Pavela nodded. That's exactly what makes it so great. It was no longer a regular sword. It had become a symbol of the creator's entire life and ultimate obsession. Finally, Pavela turned away. We can talk about that later. Let's head into the next room. But the moment they stepped inside, the entire group froze, their eyes widening in shock. The scene before them was completely unexpected. Daoden can't stay still in one place for long, Pavela muttered. They must be leaving soon. Kelly looked ahead and immediately cried out in disbelief. What the hell is this, Daoden? Her voice was filled with shock. In the room, Daoden was standing there, looking completely unfazed. Kelly tried to pull Zeon out, the young man currently planted face down on the floor, while Pavilsa immediately scolded Daoden for treating the young guy so roughly. Daoden, acting as the strict master, shot back that Zeon shouldn't be disrespectful to an old man. Pavilsa sighed at their antics before getting down to business. He informed Daoden that the forging of his legendary sword, Crayon, was nearly finished, meaning they would be able to leave soon. Daoden was genuinely surprised, blurting out that the work was completed much faster than he had anticipated. He sincerely praised the unmatched, incredible skill of the Archilan blacksmiths. Pavilsa simply told him to swing by the forge to pick up the blade, but the moment Daoden thanked him, Pavilsa's face suddenly froze, his eyes widening in shock as he realized something. Pavilsa turned around and demanded that Daoden repeat what he had just said about parting ways. Daoden firmly reminded Pavilsa of the very words he had spoken during their last meeting, that they would probably never see each other again. Turning his back, Daoden's voice was heavy with resignation. He agreed, saying that he truly didn't believe they would meet again in this lifetime. That definitive tone struck Pavilsa hard. This was a real goodbye. A painful memory surged up. Pavilsa recalled that dark day when everyone, including himself, chose to turn away from the brutal truth, choosing to live as cowards on the run. He remembered the heavy weight of that decision all too well. The life they were granted had become a burden too heavy to bear. Having witnessed that day firsthand, he understood it better than anyone. But among all those cowards, there was one exception. Daoden was the only one who never looked back. the only one who walked into the light entirely alone. He alone carried that burden for over a century. How could Pavilsa not feel a deep sense of awe toward a man like that? Daoden once again sincerely thanked his old friend for everything he had done. Suddenly, Daoden broke the heavy atmosphere with a booming laugh and waved his hand, cheerfully saying he would see him next time. The phrase next time echoed in Pavilsa's mind. He looked up, his eyes flashing with a mix of hope and confusion. That was exactly when he saw him. From behind Daoden's back, Xian was poking his head out with a mischievous, triumphant grin. Pavilsa finally understood Xian's promise that he would stay to make sure the old man didn't die alone wasn't just empty talk. With a renewed spirit, Pavilsa called out to the departing master and disciple, happily stating that he would look forward to the day they met again. 2 weeks later, Pavilsa sat alone on a boulder in the middle of the vast desert. He muttered to himself that the past 2 weeks had flown by in the blink of an eye. His quiet contemplation was interrupted by a playful attack from Kelly, who suddenly jumped out from behind his back with a small roar. He scolded her for acting like a child, but Kelly just pouted, insisting that she was still young. But Pavilsa picked up on her mood, noting that she was acting more childish than usual today. He gently asked if something was bothering her. Kelly stared out into the distance, admitting that now that Xian was gone, she felt a little empty inside. She explained that after worrying about him so much, she couldn't stop remembering Xian's moment of pure joy when they gifted him the new gear. In her memory, Xian's eyes popped out in astonishment upon learning that his new breastplate was made from the corpse of the Sand Wolf Queen, the very monster that had almost killed him. He was completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of enchanted items they gave him. His face was a picture of utter disbelief. His excitement reached a peak when he discovered the subspatial storage. He marveled at its capacity and mischievously asked Daoden if he wanted to crawl inside. Watching him laugh with that pure, childlike joy, Kelly realized that despite possessing massive strength, Xian was still just a kid at heart. She smiled bittersweetly, hoping he could keep that bright smile forever. Then she laughed, realizing she sounded exactly like her grandfather. He asked Kelly that if their paths ever crossed with Xian's again in the future, she had to promise to help him out. Kelly beamed with a bright smile, enthusiastically agreeing. She declared that since Xian saved Archilon, he was an honorary member of their clan. She swore she would craft her absolute greatest masterpiece just for him. Pavilsa looked down, his expression firm and filled with a deep sense of responsibility. He was certain they would meet Xian again. By helping the young man inherit Daoden's will, they could finally begin to repay a massive debt. A debt, he revealed, that not just them, but the entirety of mankind owed to Daoden. Meanwhile, Xian's training in the middle of the desert continued, interrupted by a swift punch to the head from his master. Xian cried out in pain, asking why the old man hit him. He complained that his IQ was already low enough, so Daoden didn't need to try and make it any lower. The master's reason: Xian was making way too much noise while he was trying to sleep. Xian protested, pointing out that Daoden was the one who ordered him to kill any magical beast he saw at night. He flared up, even claiming that Daoden's own great sword, Crayon, was currently clicking its tongue in disapproval at his master's absurdity. Daoden's solution to Xian's low IQ was simple: punch the other side of his head to balance it out. Now, Xian was buried up to his waist in the sand with 2 smoking bumps on his head, miserably muttering, "That's not how it works." He turned to his friend, the Crayon sword, whining that it wasn't taking his side. Daoden told him to stop talking nonsense, but Xian actually looked quite pleased. Through all that chaos, he had achieved his goal, completely exhausting his mana for the day. He was seriously putting his master's training into practice. Mana was just like a muscle, you had to push it to its absolute limits to make it grow. He was determined to maximize his capacity and elevate his skills. The driving force behind this intense resolve was the memory of his fight with the scavenger. That was his first real battle against another awakened human, not a monster, and he was honest with himself: he had lost. He had hesitated when facing a human being, a weakness he absolutely couldn't accept. After Daoden left him alone in the desert, the emotion welling up inside him wasn't despair, but pure rage at his own weakness and complacency. He realized that a single moment of carelessness could completely invalidate his entire struggle for survival. Even the low-level monsters he used to fight had a stronger will to live than he did at that moment. Looking up at the desert sky, he felt a chilling disappointment. That was a horrible feeling that he swore he would never experience again. He had to get stronger at all costs. He knew his limits well, but he also saw his potential. So, right now, he would focus on his training and mastering the new gauntlet Kelly gave him. He remembered her instructions: embedding a fire attribute item would boost its power. He regretted not being able to harvest the core from the Drake dungeon, and wondered if the ability to communicate with weapons was the secret behind his master's strength. As he continued training, he muttered to himself, wondering if the old man's irritable temper was a sign of male menopause. Suddenly, Diodon's voice cut in, asking if he was done harvesting. Xian, who was wiping a magic crystal, confirmed that he was finished. Diodon stood up, looking at the setting sun. It was time to continue their journey. He casually asked whether the sun was setting faster than usual or if it was just an illusion from their non-stop moving. Diodon explained that the change in the sun's movement meant they had entered a completely new, vast expanse of the desert. With no landmarks around, they had to rely entirely on the sun for navigation. Xian mischievously interpreted this as his master finally telling him to find a place to sleep. Diodon denied it, but his attention was quickly caught by something on the horizon. Looks like they had a welcoming party. From the top of a sand dune, they spotted a massive dark mass looming in the distance. Xian narrowed his eyes, trying to get a clear look. He wondered if it was a mine or just a bizarre rock formation, noting that it seemed a bit too small to be a mine. A wide, savage grin spread across Diodon's face. He told the boy that this was just the tip of the iceberg, and what lay deep beneath the sand was what was truly spectacular. With a roar, he declared that an unimaginably colossal mountain lay buried right underneath them. A rock mass so massive that even the giant sandworms didn't dare approach it. Xian could only stare blankly at his master's sudden burst of excitement. He yelled, "You're totally a kid," as Diodon took a running start and leaped, launching himself through the air toward the towering rock formation. Xian watched him go with a weary sigh, chalking it up to his master's excitement over reaching a new area. He muttered that taking care of the elderly was seriously hard work. Xian followed behind his master, gliding across the sand and effortlessly scaling the steep cliffside. He reached the summit only to find Diodon already lying down comfortably, casually asking what took him so long. Xian flashed a deadpan expression and asked if the two of them had swapped mental ages. Then he pulled out 2 pieces of jerky. The master and disciple sat down, kicked their feet up, and tossed the jerky into their mouths at the exact same time. A rare moment of peace in the middle of the harsh desert. Diodon finally broke the silence, asking Xian how he was holding up in the desert. Xian replied that he was doing fine thanks to his master's lessons, but admitted he still had a very long way to go. With a smirk, Xian added that it was kind of hard to feel strong when traveling with a monster like him. Diodon brushed it off as useless flattery. The light-hearted mood vanished as Xian's expression turned serious. The master looked up at the swirling, starlit night sky and gave him a benchmark. When you can slice a sky-covering sandstorm clean in half, you'll be ready. Xian lowered his head. The massive scale of the task weighed heavily on him for a moment. Diodon presented a new path. He said that if Xian continued on their current route, he would eventually find a dungeon that Diodon himself had discovered decades ago for personal reasons. He warned that it was an extremely dangerous place, but added, conquering it might just be the key to rapidly amplifying your skills. He questioned, "Are you going?" Xian's face split into a wide, almost savage grin, his eyes flashing with excitement. He sprang up, his entire body vibrating with energy, shouting to go right now and asking what they were waiting for. Diodon simply told him to go to sleep. Right at that moment, panicked screams echoed from below as a group of people frantically scrambled up the cliff. They heard a rustling sound in the darkness beneath them. Xian instinctively asked if it was a magical beast. He sensed one nearby and offered to handle it, but Diodon sarcastically asked if he wanted to try making friends with it instead. The other group was in a total panic, desperately trying to find a place to hide from whatever was chasing them, quickly deciding that splitting up would be even more dangerous. Xian and Diodon watched from above as the desperate group ran toward their position, assuming they were being hunted by a monster. But as they drew closer, Xian's eyes widened in surprise. It was a group of elves. The elves spotted the 2 humans high up on the stone pillar. Xian, seeing them for the very first time, was amazed by their appearance, but his amazement quickly turned to disbelief when he overheard their plan. One elf suggested throwing the 2 humans to the monster chasing them to create a distraction. Xian was horrified. He had always heard that elves were a noble race, yet these guys were casually proposing to use them as live bait. He thought to himself that even Kelly, who was a half-elf, was way better than them. Before he could even process their cruelty, the elves finished scaling the cliff and stood right in front of them. The lead elf wasted no time. She shouted at the 2 humans, ordering them to get off the rock. Her intention was clear. She wanted them to go down below and lure the beast away so her group could escape. The entire group took a hostile stance. Weapons were drawn, ready to force them into becoming monster food. Xian tried to reason with them, pointing out that they were clearly fast enough to escape on their own. Why sacrifice them? But his words were like a passing wind. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of oppressive pressure radiated throughout the entire area, leaving everyone completely dazed. At first, Xian thought an unprecedented magical beast had appeared. The elves seemed to feel that crushing pressure too, their faces freezing in pure terror. But he quickly realized this sensation wasn't coming from an approaching monster. It was a primal survival instinct triggered by pure, unadulterated fear. It was an unprecedented kind of horror. Even after facing countless beasts and awakened humans, he instinctively tried to locate the source of this overwhelming aura. His eyes went wide with terror when he realized where it was coming from. The source of this soul-crushing pressure was none other than his own master, Daoden. The old man's bloodlust was so incredibly powerful that it felt like a physical force, suffocating everything in the vicinity. The elves were completely paralyzed, their arrogance instantly shattered. The leader stammered, unable to comprehend how a mere human could possess such terrifying power. How could something like this even exist? She tried to regain her composure, shouting at her crew to hold their ground, insisting he was just a human. But her words were useless. Her comrades had already dropped to their knees, completely broken by the old man's aura. She couldn't believe they were kneeling before a human. Driven by a mix of fear and pride, she made a fatal decision. She declared that he had to be killed. Gathering her power, she fired an enchanted magic arrow, believing that a human like him shouldn't be allowed to exist. Xian screamed as he watched the deadly arrow fly straight toward his master. He was completely terrified. But Daoden didn't even flinch, he just stood perfectly still. With a casual flick of his wrist, he effortlessly caught the empowered arrow right before it could pierce his neck. He turned around, his face a mask of pure, unbridled rage. The terrified leader tried to rally her group, telling them to get into combat formation. She screamed that they just needed to kill the human and everything would be fine. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos, asking a chilling question: how did you all survive? Before anyone could react, a male elf named Yora was struck. Daoden appeared right in front of him in the blink of an eye, grabbing the elf by his head. Daoden growled that he should have killed them all decades ago. His comrades shrieked for him to let Yora go, furious that a human dared lay hands on an elf. Daoden tightened his grip, asking the question once more, his voice low and deadly. How the hell did you bastards survive? He roared, demanding to know who they had slaughtered to stay alive this time. He increased the pressure, and with a gruesome sickening crunch, Yora's head exploded like a tomato. The remaining elves watched in absolute, paralyzing horror. In a flash, Daoden stomped heavily onto the ground, creating a massive shockwave that knocked the elves off their feet. He recalled their twisted logic. It doesn't matter how many humans die for us, because human lives are worth less than insects. Humans are meant to die, not elves. Daoden's fury exploded. He roared that it was because of bastards like them, who hadn't changed a bit even after seeing what the world had become. Xian, caught in the chaos, was completely stunned. What was he talking about? His master's words echoed in his mind. The world turning out like this was all because of the non-human races. Right then, the ground erupted. The magical beast the elves were fleeing from finally showed itself, a massive underground monster. The elves screamed in terror as they fell toward the gigantic creature they called Sulcaris. Seizing the perfect opportunity, the elves demanded their companions use the beast against the humans. One of them roared at their comrade Ikara to throw the human smaller than Xian to the beast first. While the beast was distracted, she intended to surround the human who had killed Jihora. But when she turned around, her eyes widened in shock. The world seemed split in two. Daoden, moving as a blur, had shifted and cut both the monster and her in half with a single slash. He didn't stop, wiping out two more elves the moment they fell toward the beast. He landed gracefully, grabbing an elf by the face. With an eerie calm, he asked her again, "Your village is nearby, isn't it?" He offered a deal. He would let her go if she answered, but she responded with a curse. So, he slammed her hard against the ground. The lifeless body now lay in the crater, with red water spilling out. The silhouette of the old warrior was a total nightmare. The last elf was now a trembling mess, begging him not to come any closer. Xian finally snapped out of his shock and rushed over, begging his master to stop. But Daoden just waved his hand, swatting him away. The strike sent Xian flying, crashing hard onto the ground. He turned back to the cowering elf, mocking her for trembling before a human. With a wide, savage grin, he asked her one last time, tell me where your village is." She couldn't believe a human knew about the elf village. The absolute terror of what he could do completely broke her. But just one look into this man's eyes made her forget about the well-being of her entire race. Her eyes rolled as she pointed toward the village. Daoden smiled, having gotten the information he wanted. She immediately began begging for her life, pleading that she was wrong and apologizing. Daoden kicked up dust as he dashed toward the village. When the dust settled, the elf found herself alone. A wave of relief washed over her, and she burst into crazy laughter. She had survived, but the relief was short-lived as she collapsed. Her fate remained unknown. Nearby, Xian dragged himself out of the debris, bloody and bruised. He muttered about the crazy old man, realizing that without his new breastplate, he would have broken at least 4 ribs. He looked up, his body aching, and called out for his master. He saw the destruction, the bodies, and the terrifying power his master had just unleashed. Why did he have to go that far? Refusing to be left behind, Xian scrambled to his feet and yelled after him, asking where on earth he was going. He recalled Daoden's chilling parting words to Jihora, "I should have killed all of you decades ago. Where have you all been hiding?" His master's furious question about the non-human races being responsible for the state of the world now carried a terrifying new weight. Xian finally arrived at the scene and called out for his grandfather, but he was met with a horrifying sight. The elf village was burning fiercely. A scene of absolute destruction left him speechless. Before his eyes was a massacre, the ground covered with the motionless bodies of elves. Xian gasped, realizing that even though he had run here at full speed, he was still too late. He knelt among the bodies, overwhelmed by despair. But through the crackling of the fire and his own sobs, he heard a sound. A voice. Someone was still alive. Hope surged in his heart. He bolted up, sensing a survivor hiding nearby. Pushing his sensory limits to the max, he pinpointed their location. They were very close. He cautiously approached a small alleyway. Hearing a faint cry for help, his hope quickly turned to horror when he saw the reflection in the survivor's eyes. It was his master, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. Daoden swung his massive greatsword without a moment of hesitation. Xian couldn't believe it. Was this merciless executioner really the grandfather who had raised him? Xian unleashed his power, creating a furious sand titan. Master and disciple clashed, a battle of conflicting ideals. Xian screamed, questioning why his master had to go this far. Daoden looked down at his disciple with utter disdain. He mocked him for trying to play the hero and unleashed a crushing burst of power, a wave of energy hitting the boy dead on. Xian was blown away, completely helpless against his master's strength. He tumbled through the air, the terrifying surge of power choking the breath out of him. Daoden pressed the attack. A brutal lesson in power. A cold, resolute expression masked the old man's face as he disciplined his student. Xian slammed hard into the ground, shaking the entire area. He pushed himself up from the dust, groaning in frustration at the old man's methods. Daoden stood over him, berating him for being a reckless fanatic rather than a hero. The old warrior revealed what he had been thinking on his way here. Xian admitted he didn't intervene because he didn't understand his master's rage and felt it would be too risky. Daoden looked down, unimpressed, and coldly asked what Xian meant by that. Xian argued that while he could understand revenge, killing those who had already surrendered was crossing the line. In a flash, Daoden's boot stomped on Xian, crushing him into the ground, telling him he used the word understand too lightly. Daoden reminded him of his own past, asking if the scavengers he killed were the ones who murdered his parents, and how he had gone on a rampage using that as an excuse. Daoden explained that the elves' twisted mindset didn't just appear out of nowhere. He lectured that those 4 weren't exceptions. All non-human races were the same, killing humans either actively or passively. Still pinned to the ground, Xian's mind reeled from these revelations. Daoden clarified their motives. It wasn't for pleasure or religion. They killed solely for their own benefit, forcing humans into the role of victims. He explained it was the only way they could avoid despairing over their own circumstances. Roaring in fury, Daoden said Xian's pity was nothing but an illusion. In this real world, everything is a battlefield of pure struggle, and he needed to know his place before talking nonsense about humanity. The old warrior revealed he had witnessed the world before and after the collapse, an era Xian could never comprehend. Slowly, Xian pushed himself up, his body aching but his spirit remaining unbroken. Daoden turned to leave, throwing out one last chilling question. Would Xian still hold on to those naive beliefs after learning the truth about this world? Xian, bloodied but unyielding, demanded to know what secret he was missing. His master's answer was simple yet terrifying. Everything showed he was young and foolish, mistaking reckless behavior for justice because he knew nothing about their lives. But Xian shot back, reminding the old man that he was the one who taught him never to give up. With an unwavering, determined gaze, he declared he would walk his own path. He swore that even if he witnessed the horrors his master had seen, even after knowing the whole truth, he would not abandon his ideals. Master and student stared each other down. A silent showdown between two generations shaped by a broken world. The old man finally relented, simply telling Xian to look around the village to find the answers for himself. Xian's eyes fell upon the clothes of a dead elf. He wondered where they had gotten them. Daoden brushed it off, saying they would find out once they returned to Archelan. Left alone among the ruins, Xian began to investigate. He realized the village layout was very strange. It was tiny, consisting only of houses, with no shops, restaurants, or farms. This wasn't a self-sustaining settlement. A properly functioning village needed much more than just a place to sleep. Something was fundamentally wrong with this place. His search led him to a large chest filled with jewelry and accessories. He examined them. The craftsmanship was somewhat similar to things he had seen, yet distinctly different. He had never seen this style before, not even in any human city. The items didn't feel like they were made by human hands. Their texture felt ancient, as if they had existed for over 100 years. He recalled the official history. The non-human races only appeared 100 years ago, when the world turned into a desert. But could a race develop such a deep culture within just a single century? It sounded impossible. Then he found a tablet engraved with strange, swirling script that he couldn't read at all. He used to accept the existence of non-human races and magical beasts as a given fact, since they had appeared long before he was born. But a chilling possibility began to root itself in his mind. What if they didn't just suddenly appear? What if they had existed long before that? Looking at the artifacts of the non-human race, he realized that perhaps they didn't come to Earth willingly. A horrifying synthesis of these thoughts began to take shape. What if some unknown, powerful existence had forcibly brought all the non-human races to Earth? If such a divine entity existed, then the very foundation of the world he lived in was a lie. The final, terrible piece of the puzzle fell into place when he found another chest. Inside, it was filled with blood-stained human belongings. He finally understood. The village didn't have shops because they didn't need them. Everything they wanted was stolen by slaughtering humans. A sorrowful wind swept through the ghost village. It carried the silent screams of countless victims. Filled with cold fury and solemnity, Xian erupted. He stood among the corpses, sand swirling around his arms. He slammed his fist into the ground, manipulating the flow of the sand. He created a massive grave out of the harsh desert terrain, swallowing the entire village whole. Kneeling before the lined-up makeshift graves, Xian mourned for the fallen humans. He whispered that burying them like this was the absolute least amount of respect he could show.